you're one of our haters who are out there watching.
I want to warn people about hypnoporn.
We need to stay meta.
Stop that.
Need new tires? Like what?
If Jim would shut up for a second.
Oh, high fidelity.
Okay, don't tell me to shut up.
I'm not whining.
I eat doggies. I eat doggies. Feels like a party.
Stop that.
It's a war. They have made it so that I cannot be celebrating July 4th.
I don't care. I'm gonna lie, I'm not gonna pretend. I don't care. How do I think? That's what I think. I don't care.
This is 6 Degrees of Stew. You don't need to stay meta, but I'm glad you're here.
So I think we'll jump in here, and I will be fact checking, of course, on Jimmy here and Heidi. So we might have a lot of pauses and some fun. I can't take the beginning of this.
So folks are born star-spangled eyes. Oh, they send you off to war. When you ask them how much should we give, oh, the only answer is more. It ain't me. It ain't me.
Ah, yes. I'm here with my friend Jim Stewartson, my colleague Jim Stewartson.
I already have to pause because I don't know who the guy is singing, Winky. I don't know, Winks. I'm already going to pause because Heidi's glasses already look better than the ones she's wearing now. Heidi, you need better friends to tell you your glasses that you're wearing now don't look good at all. Just an observation. Oh, there's Jim's dog.
My very, very
brave, I had captions on.
Warrior buddy. Jim,
There we go.
yeah, Hi-Fi had this vision that we would each tell our stories.
Yeah, her glasses are not.
And,
these ones are so much better.
And we've told his, and now we're going to tell yours. And I think the best place to go is just to jump right in from the beginning and tell people a bit about your youth, a snapshot of your youth.
Okay, well, I have to say that I am absolutely happy to be here with you, Heidi. I always love talking to you. I am not a huge fan of talking about myself.
Bullshit, Jim.
But I will indulge the process. Let's see. My childhood was me and my mom. My parents divorced when I was 18 months old or something like that. And the last time I saw my dad was when I was 3. And so we moved to DC from Brooklyn, which is where I was born.
That's where you learned the dozens?
I grew up in Maryland for, all my life until I moved to California. I was precocious in terms of being very far ahead of all my classmates.
That's not what precocious means. He's bragging like Alex Jones. I was the biggest, brightest, smartest boy. And coincidentally, because I'm working on Dr. Stephen Hassan and finishing it up, guess who else was the biggest, brightest, smartest boy? Dr. Stephen Hassan. He was reading big books, and he was the biggest star. That's Studifornia. Yep. Biggest, brightest, smartest boys.
And they made the fateful decision to skip me a grade, which is something that they
Stephen
did way
Hassan
back
skipped
then.
a grade too because he was biggest,
And
brightest,
I didn't really
smartest.
have social skills. I'm neurodiverse.
Stephen Hassan
weird.
said he's neurodiverse
And
too.
it was a nightmare. I'm going to be honest with you. I got picked on a lot, and that experience through elementary school and junior high school, gave me a very, very aggressive attitude about bullies. I do not like bullies. I, was tormented as a kid.
Hold up. Jim hangs out with bullies such as Hi-Fi. We know Hi-Fi notoriously bullies everybody, and he is now, as we speak, and can't necessarily prove it 100%, but he is posing right now as a Polish Nazi account on Twitter, which I happen to have. Let me pull this up here real quick. Oh, let me just on it. Oh. To share screens. No, what? I'll get that in a second. It's taking along. Anyways, I'll get that when I pull up all the other things here. We'll resume this, but we all know he bullies with.
And
I'll pull that up.
when I see people engaging in that
He does
behavior,
remind me of Elon.
I ain't gonna lie, it triggers me. And so
I'm gonna pull up all the
when I
Hi-Fi
saw
stuff.
that the biggest bullies in
I'll
the
pull it all
world
up together at once.
were going after my fucking country, that's when I got involved in all this stuff.
One fell swoop.
But yeah, it's bullies.
I'm dark, Jim.
And I don't want to get into a bunch of my psychology, mainly because my trolls will use it against me.
Right.
Excuse me. But yeah, it was a formative time. I was very solitary, which is partly why I operate like I do. I was never a good student. Was always a great test taker, which is how I got through everything. I would just fucking show up for the test and get a C because I didn't do any of the homework. And,
He does, Mer.
That's how I got through.
I knew that guy. That guy was really smart because I was an excellent student and an okay test taker.
Yeah. I was the opposite. I just because I just learned on my own.
Yes.
My own. That's what I always did as a kid, and that's what I've been doing. As an adult.
So we're going to get to that defiance and sense of justice against bullies, because I think that's another thing that definitely unites some of us in this tribe. But I also think it's important to kind of look at music roots, because I know that music saved my life and punk rock saved my life, and there were periods of time when hip hop saved my life, and music absolutely saved my life. And when did you kind of find your people, or were you still solitary within the punk scene?
No, there was when I went to high school, and
I learned the dozens.
Left most of my bullies behind me.
Nope, I don't believe it either, Muggsy.
Suddenly things were much better. It still
Taylor.
wasn't, great, in the beginning, but I did find my people. And we started a band. We started lots of bands, starting in, I don't know, 8th grade or 9th grade, I started learning how to play bass. Everybody needed a fucking bass player.
This is true.
So
everybody does need a bass player.
I had lots and lots of friends now because I could play the bass and I loved it. I was, even though I was I am naturally extremely shy, and people maybe
lots of bands,
the
most bands, Winks.
It gave me a way to express myself in a way that was, allowed, right? And felt good. And I gravitated immediately to the DC punk scene because
Punk.
that's what was going on.
So much
and
punk.
It was, it was huge. It was where, I saw the second Fugazi show at DC Space, with 50 people, and like I played, which is a club that I played, I don't know, 50, 60 times, over years. And
I've never seen a group of people so
even though it
like
was punk
reliving
rock,
their heydays.
and even though it was, sort of anarchic at its core, it
He had a
gave me
mohawk, Mur,
structure.
he says.
We had to practice. We had, we had to figure out how to get to places. We had to do all this stuff, and so that actually, was a positive, structural thing. It was just me and my mom, so I didn't have a lot of structure in my life, so that gave me things to do. School.
Can I just say that seems a little rude to his mom, saying that he didn't have a lot of structure? Like she couldn't like handle him. I don't know. Like I saw that as a little degrading to single parenting and a mother, because I think they can be pretty fucking awesome single mothers. I don't know. I took that as a little. I know he says he loves his mother later in this,
I
but
don't give a shit about. Never did.
And one of the things that I think is really important, and I didn't realize how important it was until my daughter, who's a really renowned poet, she actually interviewed Jane Fonda a few years ago, and Jane Fonda said, you have to work in tribes, you have to work in groups, you have to find your community. And I know that I'm kind of a bit of a isolationist at heart, but I do know that finding community wherever it was, even if it shifts and changes and morphs, is really critical to, I think, my overall sense of kind of emotional security. And so what I love about what I imagine that punk scene was like is that it probably was like it was in many different parts of the country, sort of a sea of misfits. So you could come as you are, you could be yourself, and you could be embraced for your uniqueness, as opposed to the Biffs of the world where you sort of had to fit in.
Yeah, 100%.
oh my gosh, guys who know Vaughn and her Christmas stuff, look behind Heidi's head. It's a Vaughn stocking. It's hanging so bad on the door. I just noticed it in the background. I have Vaughn on the brain because we just watched her. She has a Vaughn stocking.
I mean, I had a mohawk for a while, like, and it that's a uniform too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a uniform that you can fucking lay out any way you want. The only sort of requirement was that you let everyone know that you don't give a shit, right? Which is do something with your hair, wear weird fucking clothes, go to, crazy concerts.
So you guys were conformist, nonconformist.
All that stuff. And
you talk like Hassan does about the 60s.
The punk scene was in its own way a, organized political movement. But it was
exactly
one that I immediately resonated with. And DC was a really interesting place, right? Because it's 90% black.
She did, Mur.
I grew up in the suburbs. My high school.
That's why you had to learn the dozens, Jim. We know.
Extremely diverse. This is like, 40% white people and then a mixture of lots and lots of other people. And, that was also very formative because I literally just never, other than, when I would hear about it, like the whole idea of racism just never came up, right?
Yeah.
In my own personal group.
White people always say this, you say they're not racist.
Everybody.
Right.
And so that also, I think, gave me a fundamental worldview that multiculturalism and just being a human being with others is what matters. And when people try and divide us based on things that I know make no difference at all, that also is something that I can never put away.
Oh, let's pause for a second. Hang on. Let me get a Jim racist thread. 1 second here. Let's see which one we want here. Let's see, shall we go Nazis or immigrants? Or let's go how Jim feels about immigrants. Let me open this. Here we go. This is Jim, and this is a thread from a friend of ours. If you thought hating on immigrants would be the reactionary right-wing trend that Jim would pass on repackaging for his followers, think again. And here, this is a tweet from Jim. I've got to go over here to scroll. Joe Biden should drone strike Putin, arrest Donald Trump, and kick Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Rupert Murdoch the fuck out of America. If he did that, history would record him as Abraham Lincoln, not Paul von Hindenburg. And then we have more. In case you missed it, Elon Musk is an American, which he is. Peter Thiel is an American. Rupert Murdoch is an American. Kicking them out might accomplish a lot of things, but making America more American isn't one of them, asshole. Which is very true. You may not like them, but this is not the way we operate. And then Jim goes on again. Hey, MAGA, bear with me a second. A bunch of billionaires are filling their pockets with our money. We don't have to agree on much, but can we agree these immigrants shouldn't rob us blind? Let's team up and make America America again. And then Jim did a video on this. That's
America. These are going to be. Do we not see a problem here? Do we not see a problem with the fact that the people behind Donald Trump paying for everything, whispering in his ear, are all foreign-born oligarchs? Putin, the Saudis, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. These are going to be the people running America. These are going to be the people who dismantle the
which we are fucked by them. This is true.
Experiment.
But they are Americans, like it or not. You can't just like
the 200.
That's what MAGA has been pushing the entire time, and you can't just choose which immigrants you want to do this to, like it or not. And it's pretty fucking disgusting to do that on any level. Let me. There's one more here. Let me get into my. We have some weaponized homophobia by him too, because he's going to do that. So we might as well go into this while we're here. Since I have this open. And here we go. I read through the replies to the Blow post by Jim and found plenty of weaponized homophobia from his fans. And only one person criticizing his disgusting rhetoric. An editor from the fucking Blaze. Jim Stewartson is an embarrassment to the left. And this is some gay conversion here. Make him your docile little bitch, gay conversion therapy. And that's people responding to, indeed, you can smell that closet and it reeks from miles away. These are more people responding to Jim's tweet. Always weird how the first move of every liberal is to call people gay. Your R boomer takes. It's fun to read. So Jim had made a homophobic tweet, and I remember this tweet. And it was really, really gross. And this is the original tweet that Jim had made. Here's what they want to replace all those banned books with. Kids Lit by Libs of TikTok, Mike Flynn and Jack Posobiec. Oh, look, the Kremlin puppet that tried to overturn democracy with General Flynn is promoting a children's book by sociopath Rychik to promote her vile fascist Twitter account. And then he has some more gay stuff in there. And then there were the responses to it. He calls Mike Johnson a closeted, self-hating Christo-fascist cult leader. And then that's what the book comments were about. So he always calls him a closeted, self-hating Christo-fascist cult member. That's one of his favorite things, to call him a closeted fascist. I was just reading the comments. Yeah, very true. Anti-immigrant sentiment is nasty coming from both sides. It really is. Exactly. 2 whiter people than these 2. Okay, I just wanted to point that out, and I have more as we go along, but Jim is pretty gross, and he does this a lot. So that was some homophobia, and I have some Nazism too from him, some sentiments, those 2 associating with Nazis as well.
Yeah.
And finally, if we're going to get to grievances, I grew up with a single mom my entire life. Women have always been my best friends, and so misogyny, is another thing. Just because of my upbringing, because I was around women all the time, misogyny is another thing that gets me boiling.
1 second. I cannot take him. It's let's see here. Which one is that? Oh, there you go. There's an example of Jim's misogynistic language. I knew I had it in there. It's a thread on it where he argues with a woman about using his misogynistic language because the right does.
I love what you said about your youth, and again, being from San Francisco, growing up in the 70s, diversity being celebrated, all the things that people fought for in the 60s, we had that kind of freedom in the 70s, and it was so beautiful. As we entered the 80s, I hated everything. I rejected everything. I mean, I say I hate the 80s, and of course I can look back and think about some music that I did cherish, but everything became about wealth, greed is good, all that crap. And again, that is why my friends who grew up with sort of a more punk mindset, that was not about wealth. It was the antithesis of that. So if you were from the wrong side of the tracks, or you weren't able to wear the latest trend or whatever, and you actually did shop at thrift shops, that was cool. And that's something that still played into my life later in my 20s and the 90s.
Her hair is so much better. I don't know what she
was
was thinking about
There's
this.
a reason for punk, right? That it was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my God. I think.
Number.
That, like, we got to remember, like, the 80s, was a very, very intense period politically, right? Reagan was doing all kinds of horrible shit. He was, bringing up welfare queens and all the.
They have a
all
very
the
limited view of that
shit he was doing. Pushing the Cold War fever pitch so he could, invade other countries. And, in the middle of all that are many of the people who are still doing it now, including Flynn, Oliver North, Bill Barr, John Singlaub, who was who's Mike Flynn's mentor, was working for basically ran Iran-Contra for Reagan. So that's what, the 80s was pushing back against a very, very serious internal threat from the right wing.
I think Heidi stole Vaughn's
I feel very grateful that I can recall my love of President Carter, and that my love of President Carter was never tarnished due to the revisionist history of the 80s and of the revisionist history of the Reagan era. And again, I can probably credit the guidance of music for a lot of that. And also, I was a voracious reader. And I don't know if you share that in common, but it's like the books that I read in the 80s into the 90s and of course in the 70s. I mean, I started reading the second I could. That really helped me stay focused on like the truth. Again, we didn't have that fake reality push that we now study and fight against, like, for example, what's been happening in Russia for the last 20 years, the revisionist history of Stalin and memory holing, as Ruth would say, all the things that they don't want people to think about, and, you know, looking for the bits that they can celebrate. Obviously, we had some of that. Now we have a lot of that. But I do think that having my head in books and having my ears always listening to some music that you know had some sort of meaning to me helped me navigate
wow.
the truth of our times pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of science fiction.
Shocked.
That's interesting.
You know,
Wow.
which was a combination of those two things.
I know,
You know,
like nobody else did.
That's interesting.
It was a way for me to read fiction and hear narratives about human beings, but it was also you know, looking into the future, a visionary thing that I could sort of compare notes with and see if it was interesting. You know, which is a trait I share with Elon Musk. He read science fiction too, but he read it literally and is trying to recreate it with billions of dollars at the cost of humanity.
It's a visionary.
And I looked at it as you know, information, as input to you know, add to my understanding of the world.
Right.
You know, so,
Jim used
well,
it
that
you know,
correctly.
that was a lot. I read a lot of science fiction and a lot of science. I read astronomy books. That was mostly what I read when I was a kid. I could tell you, you know, to the mile, you know, the diameter and circumference of all the planets and all this shit, you know, like when I was 5, because that was what was most interesting to me. What do I not know?
He was, Mer.
Right? And there's this giant, you know, blue or black thing, depending on what time it is up there.
Jim was
Jim
was an astronomer at the age of 5.
So I wanted to learn about that. So I wasn't gonna be an astronomer until I found music.
That's so cool. Well, as you know, all of my best friends are bass players and all of my exes are drummers.
We know, Heidi, you wrote a book.
I'm sure psychologically,
sense.
it does make perfect sense, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny. But I mean, and again, most of my friends who are bass players, as I always joke, are guitarists who wanted to eat. They taught themselves bass because everybody had a guitarist, but everybody needed a bass player, you know?
Right.
So I find it interesting that when I look at the people who are closest to me in this fight, we have music that you know, unites us, and we also have, I think, a love of reading too, which I think is really important. And I never realized how important it was until our guest on RadPod, Vladimir Demchenko, who is a soldier.
Didn't they have book it from Pizza Hut?
The Ukraine Army was actually talking about how he was able to beat back Russian disinformation,
Reading is fundamental?
which he was, you know, fed ever since he was a kid, because he read books, and books told a different story. And those books that he read gave him armor against disinformation. And as we know, we live in a time when people have stopped reading and they mostly flip on the television to get their information. And that's a very dangerous place.
What's the first thing any fascist does is burn books, right?
Yeah, right. I mean,
because
amazing.
they don't want you fucking having other ideas other than whatever their ideology.
Whatever they're planting in your brain. Yeah, that's I did some research. It was important to me when I found out when we had Peter Tatchell on, and he mentioned Magnus Hirschfeld, and Magnus Hirschfeld had started the first basic gender fluidity institution in Berlin in the 1920s. He himself was a gay man. He ended up traveling all over the world, writing about gender fluidity, writing about homosexuality, writing about the differences, and celebrating the uniqueness.
I guess Heidi, you wrote. This is an
his
important story, but
institution
I'm
was
sure
actually
she
where
wrote
they
a
did the very first
40-part
surgery
thread on it in a Substack.
for a trans woman. And why this is so fascinating is I figured out that the very first books that were burned in Berlin in 1933.
She didn't figure it out. You learned. You don't say you figured out something. She didn't solve an equation. I can't take them.
Were his books. They burned.
Me too.
And,
I loved it because I wanted those
destroyed
pizzas.
his legacy, which is why his name people don't know, and which is why I'm bringing it up, because I want people to know the name Magnus Hirschfeld. He was incredible. And again, you know,
she's mucking up the story, Mer.
It's exactly what you just said.
So bad.
And those were the first books to burn.
I mean, there's literally no difference between what they're doing now, right? They're banning any books that mention, you know, don't say gay. It's the same goddamn thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is, you know, DeSantis banning books and teachers from any discussion about gender, which is just so sick and bananas. And yes, it is absolutely the same thing, you know, Hitler and the fascist did.
100 years later, here we are, same shit, same playbook. And I'm glad that we have a show, and I'm glad that we have our writings to help illuminate it and to help fight against it. Because if I were just sitting idly on the sidelines, knowing all of this, I just wouldn't be able to deal with that. It feels very important.
Do something besides writing about it. Witnessing isn't doing shit.
People, even if it's one at a time. And so that's why I'm grateful.
Discovery.
So
you discovery.
Had an interesting segue from music to working and getting involved early on in computers and in technology. And like many people involved in technology, you chose hand-on rather than college. And can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh, wait for this.
Yeah, I mean, I tried college for a semester, and oh my God, it just drove me fucking crazy. It was either teaching me stuff I didn't care about or stuff I already knew.
Jim didn't need college, which is fine. Not college isn't for everybody, but Jim already knew it. He didn't need anybody else to teach him because he was too smart for it. He already knew it. You can't, which I find is bullshit, because you could always learn something, even if you already knew it. Like I had like this one college professor I had in criminal justice. I swear for some of the advanced courses, she taught the same stuff over and over again. But there was always something a little bit I could learn from like other people in the class or something they brought up. Like he has such an ego about things.
You know, for the most part, and it was just me.
It was just me. I already knew it.
I ended up, you know, I was a bartender for a while, and then I moved to San Francisco.
Jim was Tom Cruise, basically, as a bartender.
Which is where my friends who were in all the bands I was in had moved. So I moved there to be in bands.
Interesting.
And when I was there, I was, you know, just finding a job, and just briefly, I took a temp job moving boxes. And the person who was running that temp job ended up hiring me to run his warehouse. And then after another 6 months, I was vice president of central planning for a women.
Does anybody want to hear Jim's band real quick? Wise Young Chuck reunion? Just a little sample. Jim is right here. Jim is this guy back here. The little fella sitting back there. That's Jim back there. That's Jim's punk rock band.
Who would really want to move in here? The children play far away corner of the fair.
All right, that'll be enough of that.
clothing company.
Wow. And this was the night.
Which sounds very Soviet, by the way, right?
This was
I'm
90s,
president of central planning. But I actually have that fucking title, which is a crazy thing.
So cool.
But it was all done on these giant, like all of the so what I was supposed to buy all the fabric and do all the stuff and figure out how to, get all the things we needed in order to, create women's clothes. And everything was done on literally grid paper. And I was like,
yes.
what are we doing?
Yes.
And so I'd been playing with computers since I had a TRS-80 in, I don't know, whenever that was, 1979 or something. And, so I was like, we're going to computerize this. And so I did. I computerized the entire office. And now I had a PC. And what did I start doing? I started making graphics because, I had this women's clothing company
women's
going.
Clothing
and,
president of
but
something.
what I was really interested in was
a
what I
blogger
could do
getting sued by
creatively
Mike
with
Flynn and
this
Cash Patel.
computer. And
What a
so I
trajectory,
started
Jim.
designing kids' clothes, just with graphics, and went to the kids designer that was in the company, and she ended up selling it to like Mervyn's and Macy's and like all this tens of thousands of my little purple dinosaurs on wheels, like in Mervyn's.
That's amazing.
And so I was in this weird spot where I this job I could not give a shit about. Sorry, women's clothing, I don't care. But I did it.
I don't think you
for the
care about
money.
men's fashion either, Jim.
But then it
If I'm being
led
honest.
me into I could do cool stuff with computers, and so I just quit and started doing that.
Wow.
And started my first company called Eponymous Press in 1993.
Wow.
And so I from that point forward was basically working on the internet on computers. And what was that, 30 years ago?
Wow. Were the 90s that long ago? Oh my God, yeah.
30 years ago. Yeah, is when I started.
Damn, that's so crazy. I still feel like I have one foot in the 90s because I do love the 90s. Wow, so that's funny because I'm sure we probably have some of the same friends from San Francisco because that was my scene too. And I used to hang at a punk bar in the early 90s before I came back to LA.
Which one?
Which
on
one?
Haight. It was a punk bar on Haight.
Like near the park?
It was Lower Haight.
Or down, or was it Lower Haight?
Lower Haight, Lower Fillmore. Because I lived Upper Fillmore, Lower Pacific Heights. I lived across from a bar called Harry's. I think it's called Harry's. But there was a really cool punk bar. It'll come to me probably at some point in this interview.
I mean, there was also down right in there. There was like the Divisadero and all the, there was big clubs and stuff there too.
And of course there was Berkeley, which was very cool as well.
Yeah,
I
actually opened for Green Day
at Gilman Street, or
yes.
Okay, I have to pause here because Steven and Taylor have debunked this of him opening for Green Day. And I have the link. I didn't get to, but I know it's in here and you can look it up. His band does not show up anywhere in here for opening for Green Day. They did a space, and Space's dashboard for whatever reason was not working today, but we did a space on this and they went through. I know, Winks. It's hilarious. But if you look on that, you can go through. There's no recorded thing, and they go through and they have all the things. There's no record of Jim opening for Green Day, and Steven really went through and did a thing, and we had a space on it. But like I said, it's it was a garage band at best, but we couldn't find it. They couldn't find it anywhere, and I couldn't find the space on Space's dashboard. It was wonky today. It only showed us doing like half of the spaces we did, and I know we've done a lot more. But anyways, if you wanted to look it up, but that is the link. And every link that I have in here that's popping up, it'll be on the Spotify. Like when I upload it to 6 Degrees of Stew, the Spotify, I take these and then I put it on there. So the links will all be on there for you to go through and look. But yeah, that cracks me up every time.
We're Gilman Street.
Yeah.
Open for Green Day like in 93.
That's
92.
awesome.
I don't know what it was. But
Yeah.
It never happened.
It was. I had no idea who they were. They were fucking awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
There
I
were 50
was
people there.
I was writing for BAM magazine in that era, and I was living in San Francisco on Fillmore, and I had seen the Counting Crows perform, and I forget who else they were performing with, but it was like Gilman, place like that. If I look at my BAM archives, I could figure it out. And Adam had dropped off a mixtape at my apartment, like the day after the show or something. And it had like 20 songs on it. It wasn't like a 3-song mixtape. It was like, 24 songs. I got to find that tape. I'm sure I have it somewhere still. But he was mad at me for years because when I reviewed him, I did mention his rock star posturing. I remember using those words. I always remember the words that I used. And I ran into him years later at the Viper Room, and he was still mad about that. But he did fine. Things worked out fine for the Counting Crows.
Yeah,
They worked out just fine. But
yeah,
it was cool.
Mixtapes were the way that you expressed your love to each other, to people for a lifetime.
Oh my God, Airplane Music Volume 1 is why I married my children's father. He made me a mixtape of punk rock songs called Airplane Music Volume 1, probably like 94. And those are still like all my favorite songs. It had The Damned on it and Generation X and
is she wearing a Cure
some
shirt?
modern
I can't see it off and on.
songs like
that a Cure
Nirvana's
shirt?
like Love Buzz, but a lot of
I know, my eyes
older
are
British
almost in the
stuff,
back of my
which is
head.
amazing. So yeah, that's right. That is. We need to bring that back. Express your love through a mixtape, everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, tapes were such a pain. You got to rewind them, and
I still love them. I just looked at my box. I have so many boxes of cassettes. My kids kind of take them sometimes.
I don't know where my tapes
I
are.
was
Probably
a
my
music
parents'
critic for
attic.
a long time, so I would get the advanced cassettes, and yeah, it was a drag when they got jammed up and you had to use a pencil and try to get it. But one point I do want to make, and this is something that my kids kind of have their minds blown by, and that it makes me feel really bad, is that as an artist, I think you'll understand that we could actually live as writers and musicians in little apartments in San Francisco or Hollywood, not really have a job. Most of us were pretty unemployable, but do the creative things that gave us fuel. And we could pay our rent. We could get by.
Yeah, I can't see it really
and
well,
that was a beautiful thing about that period of the 90s. And my kids cannot relate to that because you either got to go right to Google the Death Star, or you have to live
Google's
with a bunch
the
of
Death
different
Star?
people, and or hope that your family member inherited a house or something. But it's not the same. It's not the same way where you could actually pursue your dreams. And pay your bills.
Yeah, that's the fundamental grievance that is being exploited by a lot of people, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's the fundamental. It is. I mean, there is a reason for that grievance.
Yeah.
Because we have all these fucking billionaires,
Right.
that are all psychopaths because you have to be one to get there.
Yeah.
And they literally sucked out all of the money.
Jim had no problem taking Patrick Chung, I think maybe is how you pronounce his name. He had no problem taking that billionaire's money for his company. None. Took it gladly.
From the lower and middle class. And now they're going after Social Security and Medicare.
I have questions about that myself, that you could do that in the 90s, because I graduated in 1995 from college, from high school. And then about 4 years later from college, obviously, I started the spring semester. I graduated like on time because I rushed it because I had my son. So it still wasn't that great. So I don't know. Sounds like maybe people had a little help. Jim is a poser.
Care. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a reason why people are pissed off.
Yeah, and we got
it started in in the 70s and 80s under Reagan, is when the disparity between productivity and wealth broke. And from that point forward, the divide has been getting larger.
Yep.
Yes.
And when it gets large enough, you end up with fucking French Revolution. I mean,
right.
And we're not quite there yet, but that's what we're seeing.
We're getting there. Yeah. Well,
I mean, behind all of this shit is genuine anger.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, this wealth disparity.
Please, Jim, you live in one
know,
of the richest
Reagan,
areas, and you live Redondo Beach down there, like one of the
Yeah.
richest areas in California.
Yeah.
Houses around you are millions of
so
dollars.
What I find interesting just about this moment in time is that I am once again attempting to be an independent writer, as I was for many years, 30 years ago. And I'm stubborn and I'm defiant, and it's happening. Like, I'm making this happen. I'm working with that team out of the UK. I'm doing it independently. And if I can do this, if I can actually pull this off, it'll make the whole damn thing worth it. And I'm going to try, because I feel like in my line, I've always, my background is journalism. And, it's not that it's dead, but it's broken. And there's a new model that's coming. And I think that that new model is going to be reader funded, because the only way we're going to be able to truly have a chance to beat back
please don't
the fake realities set up by these billionaires and oligarchs is if there is a truly independent
Jim won't leave
press,
his couch, don't worry.
Because hedge fund press and billionaire-owned press is not going to help us fight this war. And most of the people I know are working for the corporate hedge fund billionaire-owned media, and they are not our friend. They may have some great reporters and they may have some good stories, but they cannot consistently fight the way that we can as independents. So
how are you fighting anything, Heidi?
That we found each other, which brings us to first kind of give people a snapshot of what your area of expertise was with your tech background that made you highly attuned to recognize what was happening in the radicalization period a couple of years ago.
Sure. Well, I mean, so going back to my sci-fi roots, I love the Star Trek and the holodeck, right? I love the idea that you could walk into any place and at any time and talk with anyone you wanted. That sounds, absolutely amazing. And I very, very early in web programming and all of that. And I saw a little ad in 1995 for somebody to make a 3D game for Star Trek. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea how to do that. It was 1995. There were barely pictures in that, right? But I was like, yes, sure, I'll do it. And then I just taught myself.
I beg to differ. I was playing like Double Dare game on my Tandy computer when I was like in middle school. Like, we got it for Christmas. Like, he acts like he created like the most amazing things. I found this game, like, it's just so ridiculous. Like, I have found it. It's an okay game, I guess. Like, he did something.
How to do it over the next 3-4 weeks, and delivered a game that was the first 3D game on the web.
Wow.
That's
amazing. That's incredible.
Jim was the only one creating computer games.
And that it was that experience that made everything else happen. I mean, before that, I'd been doing some cool shit in VR and whatnot, and building websites, really early and all that. But this was like, oh my God,
keep
I'm the
Space
first
Nine forever
person to do this ever. It was, and 6 million people saw it, which was a lot back then. And so I suddenly
No, it never does,
had, you know, something I could point to, and I started my own company, which I've done numerous times now. And it was 3D, it was VR, but on the internet, on the web. And so I've been building worlds online for 30 years.
It's amazing.
Right? So that's the very beginning of my thing. And then, you know, I ended up selling that company. It wasn't a big transaction, but I got out in 2000, right before everything, you know, collapsed.
Yeah.
And was involved in a company that did facial animation using computer vision, and so I was super early in augmented reality and all of that. But it was the next company that's the most relevant, and I was a founder of a company called 42 Entertainment.
42 Entertainment. That is the one where he and his company laid off the workers during, or it was right after Thanksgiving. Lays off staff and halts production. And that is the one where they got tons of money from Patrick Chung, who is the owner of the Los Angeles Times right now and is a big Trump fan. So, yeah, he is and Jim will now rail against him and stuff. But if you read that article, you can see within it where Jim gives a quote kind of like, well, Patrick was involved in it. And I read, you know, it's a tough decision. We were all involved with it. Like, yeah, he's a big piece of shit. Yeah, he's had lots of companies. But Jim's now just started railing against Patrick because he's been in the news. So now suddenly he's started talking out against Patrick. But yeah, highly recommend reading that article. It's interesting.
And we built alternate reality games. So the first really big alternate reality game was for Spielberg's movie AI. And I was working with the team at Microsoft who was running that game. Wow. And it was mind-blowing. It was hundreds of these websites that you had to discover on your own. The rabbit hole into it was there was a phone number embedded in the movie poster of AI. There was an extra credit in the poster that was Janine Sala, sentient machine therapist.
Wow.
And everybody went like,
she's pretending she doesn't know him.
Therapist, and they went to like Lycos or Yahoo or whatever the hell.
She's so amazed by it.
Oh my God.
And you get to a website and suddenly you're in the year 21 something.
What's really sad about this is she will mention in this, I think it's probably towards the end, she has already done an interview with him when she first met him. Like, she's already, like, before they, like, when they first met each other, like, she interviewed him, and she's going to mention that at the end. She quotes it. Like, it's so, it's fake. It's so fake.
I can't remember. And there's a murder. And oh my God, there's a phone number and an email address. And now you're off on this adventure with tens of thousands of others. And so I was involved in that from outside, but working closely with people who are doing it. And we ended up they left Microsoft and we ended up starting a company together called 42. And that was where all of the biggest alternate reality games were done. I'll give you one example, just of an alternate reality game to
I love bees.
Stage. Microsoft and Bungie, the game studio, came to us in 2004. I think they came to us in
like Al
2003,
Bundy
but we did it in 2004.
From Married with Children, throwing 3 touchdowns
for
in
Halo
one game.
2, for the video game Halo 2. Halo was a massive hit on the Xbox. My partner in 42 was actually chief designer at Xbox. And so we said, yes, like, we want to make an alternate reality game for you, right? Just like the Spielberg one. And And we said, what's it about? They said, well, aliens come to Earth and blow shit up. And we were like, well, what does that sound like? Sounds like War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if people know about War of the Worlds, there's somewhat apocryphal, but also somewhat true history about Orson Welles doing War of the Worlds over the radio, right? And people would tune in the middle of him simulating a broadcast of the Martians coming to Earth and blowing shit up. And people literally went out in the streets looking for the Martians.
Yeah.
That's actually not true. That was overblown. And what people think, there are articles that have been done on this. It wasn't as history, like we've kind of rewritten it modern day, but it didn't actually, War of the Worlds wasn't this like big panic as what we think today modernly. Anyways, continuing on.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the first accidental alternate reality game.
Yeah, right. Oh
Because-
God, yeah.
Because here was this fictional story that was coming into the real world in a way that, and we're pretty rebellious. We kind of like that
Oh my
idea.
God, we're pretty
And
rebellious.
So we
You badass, Jim.
took a 6-hour radio drama that we produced, right, similar to War of the Worlds. But it was dispatches from the future. It was from the 26th century. And we took this radio drama that described this story in Halo, cut it up into tiny pieces, and we didn't deliver it over the radio, we delivered it over payphones.
So crazy.
Which was
Wait,
literally
we have to pause and make sure that our audience knows what a payphone is.
a payphone is a phone, a wired phone that goes in the street corner.
You might have seen him in Paddington Bear or something.
And there were cell phones, but there was no iPhone. There was nothing like that at that point. There was no GPS coordinates on the phones or anything. But we decided to cut it up in little pieces, and then we had literally hundreds of people going all over the country to individual payphones to see if they worked, because payphones were, as cell phones were coming up, that whole system was degrading. So it was this extremely challenging thing that I had to do. I was CTO, but I was also a puppet master, meaning I was a designer on it. So I had to build the system that would call all of these payphones and deliver these stories, these pieces of the story to people on the payphones, right? So in 6 weeks, I built a website that acted like it was crash landed on by a 26th century artificial intelligence, by a 26th century AI called the Operator. And the Operator had crash landed on this beekeeper's website. And
I can't take that she's acting like this is the first time she heard this story.
Like the beekeeper's website, except it was kind of pulsing at the edges.
This was done
and
in 2023,
out
by the way.
And it was
January
all of a sudden
2023.
big
She's known him
messages
for
would
years,
come
by
up,
the way, by now.
And there was one frame in a Halo clip where they show Halo 2, this crazy shit happening and shit blowing up, and then right at the end it goes Xbox.com real small, but it flips for one frame to ilovebees.com.
Wow.
So this is the beekeeper's website. So within a couple hours, I had a 250,000 Halo fans on my website, and shit was crashing, and it was crazy because it was just massive influx of people to this little beekeeper's website that was acting weird.
Right.
And over the next 6 months, we delivered story through this website using only the pictures that were already on the website. We invented ways of inserting clues into the text of if you open an image in a text editor, we could hide images in there, and it would make the image look kind of weird. Wow. So people figured out eventually, oh shit, if I download it and then open it up in a text editor, I get a message from the Operator, which is a 26th century AI, right? There was a page on this website that all it had was a list of times and GPS coordinates.
Speaking of which, I sped him up to
And if you went
125 because it
to
doesn't
that
really make a
ti-
difference.
if
He
you had
doesn't
GPS
sound worse.
coordinate, at that time, a payphone would ring on the corner. If you picked up the phone, it was the operator from the 26th century, this AI, and she would tell you the story, or she would ask you a question, very sternly. And if you got it right, if you knew the story, if you answered her question correctly through voice recognition, I would figure that out and unlock this story bit, not just for you, but for millions of people who are watching online, right? So we developed so many of these techniques that we still see today during that time, right?
Wow.
All of these ways of interacting with people through different devices. We would send people emails, texts, and all kinds of stuff. That whole period, and so we did that one for Halo 2, and that ended up in a big event at in San Francisco, where 500 Halo fans got to play Halo 2 before anyone else, and blah, blah, blah. It was a big event. We then did that for Microsoft and the Dark Knight.
This is him at
and,
1.25.
Year
and
Zero,
he's
we did
still
an amazing
this
one with
slow.
Trent Reznor in 2005. 2007. Sorry, for his album Year Zero. That one was amazing because after. Okay, a brief story about this. So Trent came to us and he said, "Here's my album Year Zero. It's about what will happen if the Bush administration stays in power until 2015."
Wow.
And it was this dystopian thing where there were bad injections and shit, and there was lots and lots of crazy.
Even
viral
Heidi
stuff.
looks more animated.
And then there was a point where people were getting handed these little cell phones, these little free cell phones, and we handed out 50 of them in Los Angeles, and it had a little Year Zero marker on it. And we told people, keep this phone with you at all times. 3 weeks later, we called all 50 phones, and we said this: you need to show up at this dark corner in Los Angeles at this particular time. That's it. All of them, literally all of them showed up. It was fucking crazy. So 50 of these hardcore Nine Inch Nails fans, right, who had been playing this crazy alternate reality game with us for months, signed a piece of paper that said anything that happened.
Can I just say, I don't think it's that shocking that people have been playing a Nine Inch Nail game the whole time and getting these clues for Nine Inch Nail fans are very enthusiastic and they love the band. I don't think it's that shocking that they would sign releases and they've been into this thing the whole time. I don't find it that shocking, at least for me.
Now is not our responsibility, right? It was like this ridiculously,
it'd be like T Swift fans.
Release of liability.
It was released, but it was
fans,
like crazy, like intentionally so. They all signed it. Then they all got into a bus with aluminum foil on the windows and guys with big guns. Like,
you invested a lot of time.
Escort them. We escorted them into a room, and there were 100 people, 50 people in this room, and then lots and lots of scary people around. And this guy comes in, who's an actor, and just rails at them. Why would you sign your life away like that?
Get aluminum foil on the windows,
how do you
not black
know
tarps.
that we weren't going to, fill this room with gas? Like, what is wrong with you? I just railed at him for, you need to give a shit. And it was just this very dramatic scene. Then at the end of that, we shuffled them all out into this dark hallway and this dark elevator.
Me too.
And they rode it down to the basement of this.
I've been playing this game the entire time.
And they all kind of shuffled into this
fucking go.
Totally black room, and then bam, Nine Inch Nails is in front of them. Played the best concert I've ever been to. Like just personally, because they were right there. There was like 50 of us, and it was unbelievable. But
here we go.
The concert, he was playing Fragile on the piano, and in the middle of his piano, that power goes off. The wall caves in on the side, and a bunch of stormtroopers come into this concert, breaking it up, and throw him into the drums.
Oh my god!
During rehearsal,
oh my god!
Trent was like, "Don't be such a pussy! Fucking throw me harder!" I was like, I don't know if he used the word pussy.
Oops, I didn't mean to stop sharing. Hold on, let me share that. I wanted to show because share screen. Hang on 1 second. Let me back that up real quick here.
on the side, and a bunch of stormtroopers come into this concert, breaking it up and taking it and throw him into the drums.
Oh my God.
During rehearsal, Trent was like, "Don't be such a pussy. Fucking throw me harder." I was like, I don't know if you use the word pussy.
Okay. Jim doesn't like to use pussy. Yeah, there we go. Oops, I didn't mean to. So I have something on that. Hang on one second. Because Jim does, in fact, like to use that word a lot. Let me get that real quick. Scrolling up. Okay, here we go. Boy, does he like to use this word. Okay, I need to go back here. He uses it a lot. We have reached peak pussy. The end is nigh. One word is all it took. Narcissistic collapse is a hell of a drug. This is real simple. Donald Trump is a pussy who got his ass kicked. Flynn is on his black swan bullshit again and is spreading this absolutely blah, blah, blah. Where's the word? Oh, got to show more here. I can't see it immediately. Hold on one second. General Pussy replied to this tweet. Let's see. There is no greater example of the rot than there is the center of Silicon Valley. Pussy. That's to Mark Anderson. For any fans of Brett Favre, please understand that he's a fraud, a sexual predator, and the biggest pussy to ever play sports. Hey, General Flynn, didn't you sue me for this? Stop being such a pussy and face me. Ivan, tell General Pussy. Flynn gave them to Russian cutouts and ran like a pussy. Do some sit-ups and bring me your balloons, pussy. That's to real Mike Flynn. In case you missed it, Mike Flynn Jr. profanely challenged me to debate. Oh, this is when he went to install balloons. To debate me at one of his dad's insurrectional gatherings. So I called his bluff. He went dark for 5 days to avoid me and sent me a bunch of stalkers to harass me instead. Nevertheless, I obtained his balloons. Pussy. Boy, there's a lot. I'll just keep scrolling here. Okay, anonymous pussy. More. Show me a selfie of your superior race, you Nazi pussy. More. Boy, it just never ends. But Jim really doesn't like to use that word. I do apologize for using it so much. I'm just reading Jim's words here on the screen. Boy, he really uses it a lot. A lot for somebody who doesn't like to use it. I kind of feel like that's a lie. Oh, and here we go. Here's an example of Jim with his misogyny. You are a low-life pussy. Keep your misogyny to yourself. And that's where he will use pretending that he's not a misogynist, but he will throw back language such as that to attack the right and pretending that he is against misogyny, but using their language back at them. But it's okay. So there's some examples of Jim doing his spectacular defending of rights.
Well, it was like that. And it was
yeah,
very,
I think
very
he lied
hardcore.
too, Wink.
That is amazing.
So those people had
there was so much of it.
Alternate reality, right? We had taken them physically through this whole experience in this big concert at the end. And then, when the stormtroopers came in, they grabbed me and threw me up against the wall. I was a plant and they knew it. But my head hit a metal
Jim
beam,
likes using
so
the
I had
word.
blood coming down my face. So it made it all so much more realistic. I loved it. I was like,
I thought that me getting 3 people into see 9 Inch Nails at the Probe on Highland was a really great 9 Inch Nails story. That is an epic story. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Trent gave us a song. This is the craziest part of that ARG actually. He gave us a song, a new 9 Inch Nails song, which is a big deal from year 0. And we put it on a single USB drive and put it, I kid you not, in a bathroom on a stall in Barcelona. Mm-hmm. And a 9 Inch Nails fan took the USB drive home, put it in their computer which first of all, why would you do that? But he did, and found a Nine Inch Nails song, uploaded it to the internet, and within 90 minutes, they had spectrographed it and discovered that we had implanted through spectrography
Jim does not
inside the Nine Inch
explain what
Nails song a phone
spectrography is
number
at all.
and the cover of the Year Zero bit. So if you, in a special piece of software, spectrographed it, you would see this image.
And Heidi
That
does not
phone
ask
number,
what it is.
within the next 2 weeks, got 4 million calls. It was so viral that it was shutting down small telcos like across the Midwest because it was going viral with all these kids. Because on the phone call was really weird. It was like this crazy scene, you know, with zombies and shit, and they loved it. And we had to shut the phone number down because it was costing us $80,000 a week. no, a day. Sorry, $80,000 a day. And I was like, you know, sorry, we can't do this anymore. You know, but that just, it shows you, right, from a USB drive to something that's shutting down telcos, right? It's that experience which taught me all of what I know about what is being weaponized, right?
Right.
So, you know, at the time, like as I'm telling the story, I'm thinking, you know, like I would never do that now because I know how badly it can be weaponized.
Well, that's the whole
You know?
thing. You created something for fun, for joy, for marketing, for whatever. And
Yeah.
you saw that if people didn't find the answer right away or whatever, that it created some sort of mania. And maybe we should mention that.
Right, because the fact that people were willing to sign their names like that, right? And look, we were very careful all the way through. No one was ever in any danger at all.
Except for when you got cracked,
you know, that was something
cracked
that
open.
was
Maybe that's what's
extremely
wrong with
important to us.
Jim.
But you could see that if somebody had bad intentions, and
real quick, I have to stop. Thank you, Winks, for reminding me. I came across, and I think several others have, there is a post where Jim was looking for a videographer to come with him and his son. They were going to go treasure hunting and find a big treasure, and he was pretty sure he knew where it was located. And I really wish Heidi had asked him. And I'm pretty sure it was the treasure that was found, I think either during COVID or maybe pre-COVID, but everybody had looked for it for many, many years. And I forget the name of the treasure right now. Whoops. I forget the name of the treasure right now. I can't think of the name, but lots of people have been looking for it for over the years. So long. I can't think of the name of it right now, but yeah, Jim wanted to find this treasure. Oh, he was always looking for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Fucking hilarious. This guy.
People
this
just got
guy
on a bus and signed their lives away. You know, what could you do? All sorts of bad stuff.
What's
Like
the
the
name
guy
of
that
that
we
treasure?
had who came in to tell them that they need to give a shit and stop being, you know,
I want to say
lemmings.
Phineas, but I think I'm
that guy
thinking
could
of
have
Phineas
been
and Ferb, the
somebody giving a
cartoon.
very, very different message.
Right.
And so, you know, we learned all these techniques. We had fun with them. We built these big games. And I stopped doing that in 2007, 8. I started another company that was where I won an Emmy, where we took those
you
games
didn't win an
and sort
Emmy.
of packaged them into stories that would come to you
It's a
over
group
your
Emmy.
devices, right?
Okay.
God, you're so fucking
instead of
arrogant.
having to go out to the street corner to get a piece of it, we would call you on your phone. So like if there was an emergency at your house right now, right, and this is
I know, it's terrible.
A drama. You might see you running around. You might see you talking to 911 or something, right? In our story, you'd pick up the phone, dial 911, and the phone in your pocket would ring. So you would listen in on the phone while the conversation was happening, so you could hear the 911 call and synchronize with what was going on screen. And it broke the company was called Fourth Wall Studios because the point of it was to break that fourth wall. Right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, the phone that you're picking up and calling is affecting me in the real world right here. It's calling me on my phone. And I was like, and those moments were very magical because people had seen this kind of storytelling before. And it didn't require all the craziness that alternate reality games did.
It's
And
amazing. It's amazing.
So that was a company that I ran for 4 or 5 years that ultimately won an Emmy for interactive fiction.
I recall when I was in college, it was the period of existentialism and relativism. relativism, but kind of, I was reading a lot of books from both, and there was an Italian author who I've been trying to figure out who it was. I'm going to have to track him down, where that was part of the storytelling, was that you would be walking down a street past a phone booth, and that whoever was calling for you. So it's very, very interesting to know that that's always something that I always just thought that was so freakishly weird. And here you are actually creating events, doing that type of stuff. It's very cool. It also shaped you for this fight. So I'm sure is there anything in between that we need to talk about before I move on to when we actually met and the work that you were doing at that time?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I after that company, and I'm not going to get into it, but I also have a very deep. I do not like billionaires, and that is both because of what they're doing to the country and the world, but also because of what they've done to me over the years.
You kept taking that money, though. Dollar bills, y'all.
I have had issues with them.
I've been watching a lot of Sunny. That's
company.
from Sunny, Philadelphia.
But after that company was done, I went to Google for a year and a half, and I learned how that whole fucking machine works. And I lasted a year there at Niantic, where they were making Pokemon Go.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
I learned about all of the Google, how all that shit works, and reconfirmed to myself, I am not a company man. I'm not good at taking orders from people. Never have, never will be.
What I find interesting is, in my freelance work, it seems like the wealthier, the wealthier the person that would be necessarily picking up the tab, the more likely they were to never be able to find their checkbook. And I hate cheapies. I really do. And so I often.
Did you know? Interesting little fact about Jim. He was also, I don't know if he still is, probably not, an adjunct professor too. Little fact.
And found that the wealthier they were, the more difficult it was to ever actually get paid. Because some kind of pain.
Because the whole reason why they're rich is because
imagine having him as a professor
as not an exchange of goods and labor,
right.
But as a way to get richer at somebody else's expense.
That is a fact.
And having to deal with those types of people as a freelancer,
LinkedIn, public information and whatnot, and like Google searches. Wow.
Very allergic to people who don't pay their employees, like Trump. There was many reasons why I was, why I knew him for what he was, because of the type of reporting that I would do, and knowing his affiliations with Ponzi schemes and scammers and not paying people. But that's a particular breed of human that I'm not fond of. So I, like 60,000 other people, found your work on Twitter and used to check you like an oasis of sanity every morning, because I was already.
I forgot about that. Jim was her oasis of sanity. How? When I found Jim, because he's going to talk about it, he comes bursting into the scene. Like he had no traction on his Twitter. If you go and check his Twitter before he gets traction on QAnon, that takes him a while before he has a viral tweet. I was like, who is this guy? Because I had already lost my loved one to Pizzagate and QAnon. And I was already on Twitter because I came over from Facebook because I liked artists and comic book people and stuff like that. And so I started following people who knew about QAnon and what it was actually about. And I was like, who is this guy? And what is he even talking about? I did not think he was an oasis of anything.
Years or so into the war when we met. And it was very vital that I was able to review your work and see somebody who understood what was happening, who understood that there was radicalization going on, and who actually
everybody else already
did
of
it. And what you just explained about your background in technology and ARG made you very adept at understanding how people were being radicalized and the techniques that were being used specifically in QAnon. And you were able to dive into that world with an advantage because you'd been one of the creators of this type of alternate world. So 60,000 of us found you. And I always think it's very important to point out that we will always owe you and others like you a debt for having told people to stay away on January 6th.
Oh my gosh.
Because that should have been something that was being done as a national emergency. Instead, it was Twitter feeds like people like you who warned people like me who had to be present for the Women's March, but knew I better stay home on January 6th of 2021. And so let's just, first of all, thank you. And then let's back up to what you initially read or saw that started to take you down, the world into the research that has really been, I'm sure, your life's work.
Yeah. Well, summer 2020, I was
That
going
article
through
I
kind
just
of
shared, it's really good. And there were a lot of groups previous to January 6th that were working behind the scenes to stop protesters and everything. And they were working with people of color that had groups. They were working with small individual groups, activist groups of LGBTQIA plus groups, anti-fascist groups, all kinds of groups. And they were kind of like behind the scenes. And this is just one story, right, across America, because there were so many groups. And that Time News article is a really good, like, just inside kind of window looking at it. But they were even wiping their brows to the very last moment. And they had people on phone calls and Zooms and like were kind of holding off on whether or not to do protests and stuff. And when you read that article and everything that was going on behind the scenes of just this one group, right? I'm just talking about these groups that were working together on whether or not to protest the vote and January 6th and whether or not they should go, and watching like what was going on online and everything. Like the way Jim presents himself and Heidi and everyone around him, like he was so savior, and thank you, Jim. And oh, if it were not for you, everyone would have been there January 6th. And oh, you are our savior. But that Time News article is really good. And I'm sure everybody knows here, if you were even on Twitter, you knew it was going to be dangerous. Nobody was going to go and protest on January 6th. We all saw it. And they're alluding to somebody, and I'm not even going to mention his name because they always say he's a Russian asset, much like many of us here. We work for Mike Flynn. We're getting paid on crypto, PayPal, whatever, all that stupid shit. So I know who they're alluding to because of one stupid tweet. And I'm not going to bring his name up because he's a great guy and researcher. And he's going through a lot right now. But I know what they're alluding to in this, and they're being stupid.
transition, and I started paying attention to what was going on in Portland.
Exactly, Muggsy.
With the fucking DHS and the cops and everybody collaborating to, riot against protesters in Portland. And so I was really interested in what was causing this conflict, because it was scary. It was obviously
let me back up a second
radicalization.
here.
I noticed
I got all riled up.
I started paying attention to what was.
So let's just, first of all, thank you. And then let's back up to what you initially read or saw that started to take you down, the world into the research that has really been, I'm sure, your life's work.
Yeah. Well, summer 2020, I was going through kind of a transition, and I started paying attention to what was going on in Portland.
Yes.
With the fucking DHS and the cops and everybody collaborating to, riot against protesters in Portland. And so I was really interested in what was causing this conflict, because it was scary. It was obviously radicalization. I noticed QAnon, and I had been vaguely tracking it, before that. But an old colleague of mine named Adrian Hahn wrote a piece that said QAnon is an ARG, is an alternate reality game. And that, I'd sort of heard things like that in the past.
I have done a big life's work. I know. I did a big thing on this, and I can track down to exactly when Jim saw this post. And it's kind of ironic because he does not like Mike Rothschild now and attacks him. But he was in a post of Mike Rothschild's, and somebody pointed him to his former colleague, Adrian Hahn's thread, and said, hey, check out this thread of Adrian Hahn's. And that's how Jim entered into the world of seeing this article and thread by Adrian Hahn on QAnon being like an ARG. Adrian Hahn never said it is an ARG. He said it was like an ARG. And Adrian Hahn's thread on QAnon being like an ARG is very thoughtful. And Adrian Hahn, he submits it to 2 different places for an article, and he goes on to write a book about it. But it's a lot different than what Jim has turned this all into. And I have a Vimeo, it's over on Vimeo now, a video about how Jim got kind of set off into QAnon, but it's a lot different than the story that Jim tells about.
I was not a big into 4chan culture and all that shit before. So I came into it sort of fresh, and I looked at it and I was like, yep, it's an ARG, but it's an ARG that is resulting in a death cult. Right. So I read that, and the first thing I did was just go to QAnon Twitter, because at that point, I mean, for a long time, all the QAnon people were like attacking Chrissy Teigen and shit for being, child eating, whatever, just ridiculous. But Twitter kind of cut that off at one point and sort of segmented them into their own.
That's impossible to do.
So you could kind of escape it, but I went over there to look, and the first half an hour I spent there changed my life, because I saw hundreds of thousands of people, at a time, literally chanting the same horrid, racist, homophobic, just misogynistic garbage over and over again. And most of them had 3 stars in their bio, or Digital Soldier in their bio, or WWG1WGA in their bio. And it was like, holy shit, this is an ARG that's brainwashing people. I mean,
brainwashing's not
right
real.
Away, the second story I wrote was 2 weeks after I started, and it was, QAnon is an enormous ARG run by malevolent puppet masters. And I had Jim Watkins and Chanel Rion from OAN and Mike fucking Flynn on the cover.
Wow. Already 2 weeks in. Wow.
And, at that point, I was focusing on Jim Watkins, because there were a lot of people, because he was the one who was running the website. And
I have that article. Let's take a look real quick. Because Jim says, and he'll claim today, that he knew it was Mike Flynn. And he's going to say in here too, that from the beginning, he knew it was Mike Flynn. He's full of shit, absolute shit. And he'll even, I think it might be in these articles where he says, Q retweeted me. And guess who Q is that retweeted him? It's not Mike Flynn. It is Jim Watkins. Jim is the biggest bullshitter there is around. Let me go up here. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. That's his first article. Let me open it from here. Okay, here we go. The man behind QAnon is a vile hate merchant coordinating with OAN, Flynn, and the Russian intelligence. So this is what he's talking about, where he has Mike Flynn, Chanel, and Jim Watkins. And if you go down, he has it split into 2 different audiences. Part 1 is high-level story for the origins of QAnon, intended for people directly involved. Part 2 is a more analytical view, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really matter. And then part 1, Jim Watkins is a grifter, a literal traitor, and Q. So there you have it right there. It's not Mike Flynn. Jim Watkins is a grifter, a literal traitor, and Q. Not Mike Flynn. Jim Watkins runs ACOON and has been Q since at least the Great Blackout of 2019. So right there, Jim's not saying Mike Flynn. From the beginning, it was Jim Watkins. So he's lying. And the date of this article is August 16th, 2020, when Jim comes busting onto the scene. I just wanted to share that real quick because Jim's a big fat liar. And he's been lying, and he lies to his followers. And they don't see this stuff because Jim will post it in his articles, which are actually blogs, but he calls them articles. But yeah, he's a liar.
I figured, well, shit, if he's running the website where this Q LARP, live action role play, is going on, he must be, if not Q, he's at least the gateway to it, right? And that turned out to be true. And I also pointed out all the obvious Russian connections to Mike Flynn, to OAN, to all these places that were pushing these lies. So it was really clear right away. But as soon as I started mentioning Russian influence, as soon as I started talking about Mike Flynn, as soon as I went, out of this sort of narrow zone of inquiry about it, that's when all the, attacks started. And honestly, that was my clue that I knew that I was right.
You were right.
No.
And I think that so much of this feels very exposed and out in the open because of the work of people like you. back then, I think that there was probably some cloak and dagger stuff going on. And because of your background and your experience and your ability to actually, look at this stuff and see what's behind it, I don't think they had anticipated somebody like you coming through and doing the type of investigation you've done, because as we know, they had already put their controlled opposition in place. And so,
I mean, it was there from the beginning.
Controlled opposition in place to stop what?
It's an important point that the media is still very asleep at the switch when it comes to who and what the controlled opposition are, what they look like, what they do, in trying to obfuscate the truth about this radicalization, setup.
Yeah, I mean, and you say this often, there are no rear areas, right?
Exactly, Winks.
I thought I had found a group of people who were interested in QAnon and wanted to expose it, but it didn't turn out that way. It turned out they were there to protect it. And they were there to protect it from people like me.
Can I just say how self-righteous that is? Like, these people, like other researchers and people into extremism had been doing, first of all, if they were on the extremism beat for many, many years before, Jim was trying to be a pretend cow, or I think it was when Devin's cow was doing that. And I forget if he was trying to be Devin's cow's cousin or something like that. And then he, what is it? Parlor Takes, he tried to be Getter Takes or something like that. Like one of those other alt-right social media sites. Like he was trying all these different things. And then he's like, oh, QAnon ARGs. I think that'll be a hit. All these other people have been trying to do, have been working on this since the first Q drop. And he comes on a couple of years later, is like, I have solved it. I'm going to work on this. Listen to me. Gab Takes. Thank you. That's it. Gab Takes. I always forget because there were so many of those sites. And so he comes in with, and he had been trying Gab Takes. That wasn't so good, which, by the way, Gab Takes turns into the Thinking Project Twitter thing because he already had all those followers. Anyways, I digress. But he comes in like a wrecking ball and expects all these researchers. And some of them were pretty nice to Jim. But because they wouldn't accept his Russia was behind everything, he got pretty pissy with them. And, he's very demanding about that. Now, I want to say from my perspective, I did lose a loved one, and a lot of them were very kind to me. And what I'm doing today, I haven't had any pushback, and it's all in your attitude. Like a lot of them I work with, they're kind to me. We collaborate. If I need information, they help me. It's in your attitude of not acting like a know-it-all. Nobody's trying to obfuscate or gatekeep. It's in your attitude, Jim. It's your attitude. Nobody's gatekeeping or thinks they're trying to protect it from people like you.
And I refuse to shut up. And 2.5 years later, I have the fucking scars all over me, but
the scars to show from it.
Well, we're going to talk about that, but can you tell people how you tried to help, how you got connected with Dave Troy and Dr. Stephen Hassan, who works to help get people help who are under undue influence? Can you tell me how that led to the Thinking Project and wanting to actually give people help to de-radicalize their loved ones, or if they had been under undue influence? Because you initially tried to help, like with many great things. Let's just talk about the Women's March, Standing Rock, the Resistance, whatever. You got infiltrated, and there are scars from that. But you actually were setting out to try to help people.
Yeah, I mean, I met Dave through Stephen Hassan. So within, I don't know, I think the first time I replied to Stephen on Twitter was like a week after I started, because
I am, and I know I've been saying I've been working on Stephen Hassan for a while. It has been, I'd like to say, a labor of love, but I'm going bonkers. I just want it done. I've been busting my ass, and it should be, hopefully, I have like 6 hours of the first part. I know I have the first 5 episodes that are background, and the next one will probably be broken down in 5 episodes, but I have 5 hours right now. I've been editing the video and putting in the research into it. So I'm hoping, because I've been in between doing this, so hopefully it should be out here shortly. And also, Dave Troy is not reliable. If you know Katrina Bunch of Numbers, he retweeted a Russian thread of hers and said it was reliable. And she posts the most crazy tweets. It's just out there. And I just mentioned the Gab Takes being turned into the Thinking Project Twitter account because Jim already had the followers and he knew that that would be an easy way to have that account already pre-built. And I have right here, Viper Nicole was part of the Thinking Project, and she was also in the Discord with Jim and was a big part of the Thinking Project. And she was kind enough to come and do a space with us, which she actually tells how the Thinking Project ran and what Jim was actually doing with the Thinking Project. So I actually have the space that she came and participated in, and I will post that here. Let's see, where is that at? Is this it? Nope, wrong one. Sorry, guys. I have a lot of, let's see. Oh, here it is. That's the space that Viper did come in and talked about inside the crash of the failed anti-cult organization, the Thinking Project. And then I also have the space that Viper also came and talked about the background with Heidi Kuda, and when she was actually talking to her and Heidi had asked her some different things, and Viper was actually trying to be quite kind to her about hi-fi and different things like that. And she thought Heidi was generally taking her, words and things to heart, but it turned out Heidi did not, and continued, working with Jim. I mean, Jim and Hi-Fi, to be honest. But again, if you didn't catch those will be in Spotify in my link. I always put them in the sourcing. So after this is done, probably in a day or two, I put it all up on Spotify.
Instantly, I knew, oh my God, there are millions of these brainwashed people. And you could just tell right away that they would shut down. And I knew some stuff about cults because I've been interested in it, and it was clearly brainwashing. And I thought to myself, holy
Jim's
fuck,
an expert in cults
how
too.
are
He
we
knows
going to
some
get
stuff.
tens of millions of people unbrainwashed?
You can't.
Right?
And they're not brainwashed. Brainwashing is not real.
And so I, just looking around, figured out that man, Dr. Hassan, who wasn't a doctor at the time, by the way, because he's a bulldog, and he got his goddamn PhD in his 60s.
That is so inspirational. That is so inspirational. Wow.
I mean, he had his PhD in this shit in 40 years ago.
In the 70s when he was love bombed into the Moonies.
Yeah, so he was in the Moonies and also wrote a book called Cult of Trump, which describes this brainwashing process, within the MAGA cult, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, because I was immediately at, what's the solution to this, right?
Yeah.
It was obvious. This is a, it's some kind of, and at the time I didn't necessarily have, like in the first week, I didn't necessarily have the words for psychological operation, but it became super clear that that's what it was, and that the psychological operation was brainwashing people. And I knew immediately that we were going to need to figure out how to help all those people.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
So I met Dr. Hassan that way and worked with Dave. I've been working with Dave the entire time.
Yeah.
But he introduced us because he knew Dave from TEDx.
It's just
so
incredible.
So that's how that whole thing got started.
And you did a TEDx with Hassan and Troy. That's pretty cool. That's pretty damn cool. Yeah. I mean, all those things. It's important because there's been a massive operation to try to poison your narrative and poison your truth. And
oh my gosh,
let's talk for a moment about how many impressions you were getting on Twitter, how you were aware of what was going to happen January 6th, and how you knew that the front line was going to be these radicalized people.
They're all about impressions and
army of violent militias. And then, let's just talk about that for a second. You knew what and who was going to be present on January 6th. You were lurking in these places and on the telegrams, and well, the controlled opposition was saying, oh, don't worry about the violence, just worry about COVID. You were like, stay home.
Yeah, I spent. So I saw, Trump's wild protest. I mean, I was tracking all of them, right?
Yeah.
Especially Mike Flynn, who a couple of weeks before had been pardoned.
Yeah.
And the first thing he did was go on a QAnon show. He went on In the Matrix on the NG show, which is literally QAnon. Like the opening to the show is, where we go on, we go on, boom, trust the plan. It's like this crazy QAnon show. And Flynn goes on there to encourage his digital soldiers, like a week after he's pardoned. So it was super clear what was going on here. And I saw that Q, and I had a whole battle with Q and E and all these fucking LARPs on Twitter, leading up to 1/6, because I was watching them, and I was watching that the people that were installed at the Pentagon were involved in QAnon, right? Fucking Ezra Cohen-Watnick, I'm gonna say it right here, Kash Patel, for God's sake, like, what are these people doing in the Pentagon?
Yeah.
And then I started seeing their influence show up in these LARPs on Twitter, and so I had a whole sort of battle with these LARPs, and I got one of them shut down.
Oh my God! What a hero,
times,
Jim.
It was a whole thing, and that's actually why Q came back up briefly after the election, was because we had managed to get the alt that they were going to put on Twitter suspended.
Okay.
Jim's the reason that
Well,
Q came back.
So
the
anyway,
fake Q.
I was deeply,
He's
not
the reason
only
Jim
involved
Watkins
in
came back and
watching it,
posted
but I
his
was
Q.
actively, and I ain't gonna lie, trying to get it shut down.
Yeah.
And so when Q sort of stopped and switched over to the Big Lie, and Ron Watkins started going crazy and went from like 10,000 followers to 500,000 followers, and just this morning, Elmo fucking put Ali Alexander back on, which, while is an absolutely despicable act in any measure, is super helpful, because now all of Ali's tweets are right there, the ones that I've been following the entire time and warning about. Where he's like,
what you could have
come
done,
to
Jim?
January
You could have
6th,
archived
1776, just blatant,
what
there was
researchers
nothing
do.
secret about it. It was just being segmented off into this area, and then the controlled opposition on the other side was like, don't worry about it.
But you knew of the potential for violence and how dangerous it would be, and that the people who were actually anti-fascist would be the bait, because you've been following the messaging and because of who you saw being installed into the Pentagon. So you knew.
Yes, I did. I knew from their private messages, and I also, had hundreds of sources.
Jim has hundreds of sources,
in various places.
Amazing.
Because and many of them turned out to be ops, to be honest. But I learn as much from the ops as I do from anybody else.
Well, they too want to tell the truth too. They too have a hard time.
They will tell you partial truths.
Yeah.
And the whole project here for me has been, how do you unfuck the record? Right? Because it's been layered in nonsense for years, right? There's been 150 different, who is Q theories, right? All designed to distract you from the actual truth, which is very, very simple. There's one man who did the entire thing from beginning to end, and he's still doing it. And he was let back on Twitter by Elmo on the anniversary of January 6th.
Which was one big huge.
There is I cannot think of a more aggressive attack on the United States of America that Elon Musk could do right now, other than maybe, I don't know, crashing his satellite
letting Mike Flynn on
station or some shit.
That was it.
He let Mike Flynn, who is currently shopping a psyops book designed to create civil war, in his pinned tweet.
Yeah.
So
Serious
all of
stuff.
it, right? Every single thing that we've said is now happening at scale. Exactly like we said.
Wasn't it the same day,
exactly
Wiggs?
Said Mike Flynn is a psyops expert who created a
around that
psyop
time?
to radicalize people. Now put it in the fucking book, right? Why?
I can't
why
remember
is this
when Jim came
a
back, but it
question
was a nightmare.
anymore? Why is it? Is there any controversy?
Well, and we
And-
also
But it
have
was
enough
pre-J6.
evidence to show
I
that
can't
he is
remember when he
doing
came
this
back.
in service or in collusion with or side by side with Vladimir Putin. So I think that's the most. I think people who don't want to believe in
I
any of
think
this,
it was with Nick Flynn.
this is
I
what
knew
they
it was
truly
with
need to know.
somebody on the right.
Like I've said to many people who have cast doubt on whether Mike Flynn is involved with the Russians, fucking Google it. Like seriously, just type Flynn Russia. ignore
all
the
there.
Louise Mensch, but
Yeah.
everything else is fucking real. Dude is a Russian asset and has been since 2013, right? No one wants to go back to when was he in the military last? He was director of the DIA. What happened when he was director of the DIA? In June 2013, he went to GRU headquarters for 4 days, during which time Edward Snowden stole military secrets from
Edward
DIA
Snowden
servers.
was an independent contractor.
I mean, and then a few months later, what happens? Vladimir Putin sends little green men into Crimea, and no one knows. The DIA is specifically there to see things like that and tell the administration and fucking do something about it. And he did nothing, which is why we're in the situation we're in now.
Thank you for that. I think it's always very. I don't think we can state the obvious often enough because people are so reluctant to hear the truth, and that is part of our war. So I want to talk about two, I think, key things that led up to or preceded your banning on Twitter. While this controlled opposition is going around distracting and poisoning the true narrative, which is very simple, which we just have delineated, you and I meet. The first time we met, we found out we live in the same city, and we were able to meet face to face, which is something I think is very important in all of this, is to actually know people in real life as much as possible.
I'm gonna pause there. Just because she says how important it is to meet people in real life as much as possible. Jim has failed doxed and doxed many people that I know on and offline here that I've met because of Jim. And Heidi says this, and Jim knows damn well that he has failed doxed and doxed people. I've seen people that he has done this to, and they act like there's poisoning of the well. Jim has done that. Heidi has encouraged it. She has retweeted some of this. Jackie Singh has, many of them within their circle have. I've seen people consistently on Zooms. I have watched movies with them. I have talked to them in groups. We have fun together. I have met 2 of them in person. We've had fun together. We've done things, activities together. So, yeah, it is important, and you guys should quit lying.
And you broke it down for me. The first time I met you, we didn't do an interview. The second time I met you, we did do an interview. So while all of this obfuscation is going on, I do an interview with you that clearly lays out your investigation for Byline Times. And when I included my most important stories on January 6th, that was number 1. And when I included my most important work from the year, the raw transcripts from that is like right up in the top 5. People hearing you with your background and your tenacious investigating what you determined to be real was, I think, vitally important. So that drops. We also become friends, and we form an alliance with a couple other friends, and we do a podcast about this stuff. And we are humming along, and our first guest is Dave Troy, and we have thousands of views, and people on Twitter, and you're 60,000, muscle, right? 60,000,
we know,
followers.
Heidi, you said.
So then the targeting really ramps up, and you get banned multiple times and ultimately permanently from Twitter. Now, instead of talking about how that went down, I want to talk about what that felt like, because still today I can't even imagine, because my life's work is on that fucking platform. And when I need to find a photo or a thought or an adjective, or when I wrote something, I type in a keyword and there it is.
Thanks,
and that would feel like that. I would be in grief if that had happened to me, and it still may. So it's important to hear your response to that.
Yeah, look, I became very expert at Twitter. I had 60,000 followers, but I was at 30 million impressions.
He became expert at Twitter.
Punching well above my weight. Many sort of big viral threads. And
how does one become expert at Twitter?
In very well organized threads that would refer to each other.
What a sad
and then,
life.
I get attacked by hundreds of people lying about me, and get my voice shut off, right? Get 45,000 tweets, a couple million words,
how many hours, Jim?
Some of the stuff in there, frankly, historic, because I was finding things in real time. And, it was like getting half my brain chopped off. It was horrible. because
I can't.
I had broken no rules.
Yes, you did.
It was clearly political.
TOS, and then you did band
now
evasion.
These hundreds of people are free.
And there's something else too. I forget what the other thing was.
Lie about me without me being able to defend myself.
We're not
It's
worthy.
not only shutting you up, but it's putting you up, naked in front of people without being able to respond.
And I think it's very important to note that
it's a
the other
private
major
company.
thing that
You're
happened
not
during that
entitled
time
to
was
it.
the discovery of Mike Flynn doing a cultic prayer, I am prayer, in a Christian church. And your exposure of that really clearly hurt him.
Oh yeah. No, it like he lost a whole chunk of evangelical and Christian right support during that time, because they saw him leading these people in a cult prayer, in a cult prayer.
Yeah.
And it was verbatim. And then he lied about where it came from, and I just and so I had been pointing out the I am and theosophy, without getting into the weeds, those influences in QAnon and across the board in many of the people who were running the show. There were lots of QAnon accounts with I am in their name, and it was clearly there. And then when I saw Flynn doing that prayer,
good point, Winky.
It was like that, like again, every single influence from his favorite president JFK, which is what they're across the board, right? But the I am thing, the theosophy thing, is important because.
Can I just say, if you want, he is admitting to harming him. Good point. He is directly. I have this archive too, so it's not going anywhere, Jim. If you're listening, he is admitting to actively harming him and taking away followers. And he goes further here. You'll hear after this. That's a very good point. He admits to, he's going to go further here. He's going to talk about his Telegram too. Admits to harming him, where he has to shut down his comments until he comes back to Twitter. What I was going to mention here, because Jim's going to go into more about I am and theosophy, is following Quack's. What is Quack's exact name on? Because he's my friend that I've met in real life, and you failed, Docs, Jim. Rabbit Hole Cartographer on Blue Sky and on Twitter. He's not active on Twitter anymore. And subscribing to his Patreon, but he writes Quack's Anonymous. But he has a Patreon where he is the most knowledgeable person that I can think of for I am and theosophy. Very good. Quacks. Winks, if you get a chance, could you look up his Patreon for me? Like in between while I play this?
Theosophy helped bring Nazism into power. Helena Blavatsky, who started
if
theosophy,
I open up too many screens or search on Google, it freezes. Like
super race, right? And she did it in this, kind of
this
mystical
PA internet
way
here
that was oblique in its racism, although it was racist.
And posted in the chat.
But that turned into what was called Ariosophy. And Ariosophy focused on the Aryan race from Helena Blavatsky's
Please, and thank you.
work. And that influenced Hitler's Fourth Reich through Himmler, who built the whole cultic part of Hitlerism. So the root of Mike Flynn's of what Mike Flynn was reading and having read back to him in a Christian church comes from Helena Blavatsky, comes from the same root of Russian propaganda that has been. I mean, Blavatsky was a Russian emigre who came over to New York and suddenly started doing all of this, propaganda. So I thought it was very important to point out that Mike Flynn was intentionally injecting this into the Christian community, and he didn't like it, and neither did the controlled opposition.
I think that it's also very important to note that after he was exposed doing that prayer, it was not long after that Christian organizations began condemning him as a false prophet and began petitioning to not have him bring his Reawakening tour, Reawaken America tour to their towns. And I think that is that when we talk about, the repercussions, that was a very real repercussion on him. So,
well, absolutely. He also lost, 40% of his Telegram followers or something like that, because I forced him to shut down the comments in his Telegram channel.
Jim goes again. I forced
because
him to shut down his comments.
I had identified police officers and other people in his chat groups who were issuing death threats, like despicable anti-Semitic elimination of death threats against Anthony Fauci.
Yes.
In his comments on Telegram. And I started threatening all of the people who were doing it, and he shut the comments down, and his Telegram channel
I know.
withering.
I didn't realize how much in this.
Until fucking Elmo lets him back on, and now he's got
starts up. Yeah, no, it's all very real and very dangerous, and you can draw a line to how everything played out. And obviously, we continue our show. You continue to do vital work on your Substack. You now have brought your, investigative work to Mastodon. But I want to know, as somebody who hated bullies in your youth and who is now subjected to them, as an adult, I guess, what can you say about that experience and how you managed to, navigate your way through it?
Practice, right? I mean, I think my youth being bullied gave me the tools and understanding to weather it, right? And it's hard. It triggers all kinds of stuff. I mean, I still I have rules with people. Don't send me. I don't want to see people's trolling. I don't want to see the shit.
You sure do.
Because
look from behind
no matter how
blocks
stupid
and
it is, no
socks
matter
and
how
stuff,
unfounded
Jim.
it is, no matter what it is, it's still somebody lying about you, and that fucking
He
hurts.
seeks out David Gilbert all the time to troll him.
I have managed over the years
Yes.
to compartmentalize it both literally and mentally. Like now, I can just go in there. I don't give a shit. Like I really it's not like I am so calloused and scarred that literally
He is the bully.
Maybe there's another level they could take it to, but
so you've exposed them, they've exposed them. We know who they are. The people whose work is important in this fight are your best friends.
Look at how he
and
targets
when somebody
Steph.
still tries to come sideways and try to identify you as a misogynist, I just laugh. I'm like, yeah, the least misogynistic person I've ever met.
I'm a misandrist. I don't like dudes at all. I really don't.
Fucking liar.
If somebody gave me a button right now that said, okay, the world is going to be run by women now for the next, 50 years while men are given a long fucking time out, I would push the button instantly. I'm dead serious.
That would be a good sci-fi book right there.
Well, there's lots of sci-fi stories about that. There's there's an old movie where it's all women who are the dominatrixes over the men and stuff. Like there's lots of fantasy worlds about that stuff. And it's just about the fact that men's psychology has been weaponized so brutally by people who want to disrupt our lives. The fact that red pill is now like this just vernacular that people throw around, like, oh, he red pilled somebody. Red pill comes from misogyny. Red pill was a Reddit channel that was devoted 100% to attacking women.
Right.
I mean, it was the center of the incel community, and the center of the incel community is where Gamergate came from, right? It's these.
I have something for red pill.
Be involved with or married to, as we've talked about before, Pat. I'm an alpha guy. I'm very much a believer in that. I'm the man here at home, and for me that has certain connotations. It means that we can make all kinds of joint decisions, and sometimes you make a decision that I go, cool, that's fine, but ultimately I'm the buck stops here guy. When we can't agree, there has to be someone who is the decider, and that is me. Now,
that is Jim's. Yeah, it's Jim's friend. I had that ready to go. It is
These
Vincent Harris, aka
angry,
Jack Hopkins.
disaffected men who have social problems that get weaponized by these monsters. So yeah, you know, it's like people come at you wherever your strengths are, right? That's what they do. They weaponize things. You know, like they swift-boated John Kerry. You know,
Right.
You know, I'm not calling myself John Kerry.
Oh my
But when you
gosh.
call me a misogynist, which is literally like the last thing I am, you know, it's a little tiny swift boat. You know,
Yeah.
it's
They're not
ridiculous.
swift boating you,
Yeah,
Jim.
well,
A tiny
it's all
swift
awful.
boat.
And as someone who, when I first met you, I told you my story. Your empathy was so important to me, and you recognized it right away for what it was and what had happened to me. And you being able to identify it gave me like just somebody who could bear witness to my pain was really necessary for me at that time, because I was in terrible grief. Before we close out, I'm going to read you one paragraph from our first Byline Times article. Mike Flynn is the PSYOPs guy in the general. Roger Stone spreads the propaganda on various media outlets, along with Steve Bannon, who brings the billionaires and runs enormous targeting and propaganda operations. Eric Prince trains everybody and executes specific targeting operations from training centers in Wyoming, North Carolina, and Virginia. He trains physical troopers, but he also trains psychological terrorists. Peter Thiel founded MAGA 3X, which was the group that started QAnon.
I mean, still right.
And you know, and again, we have to mention Putin, of course, because as you noticed when you were going down all of those dark, you know, interwebby spaces, you know, who always came out smelling like a rose, shirtless looking fly.
I mean, one of the first things I saw when I went to QAnon Twitter was nothing about Russia at all, except for, you know, like you said, macho pictures of Putin and putting it out there as a strong leader or whatever, and attacking China, never Russia, always China, and you know, the chance that organically happened that way is zero.
Exactly.
Like, why? Like, what the fuck, guys? Like, why is it so difficult to imagine that this cult, this giant cult that's trying to destroy American democracy and is pro-Putin, that the Russians might have something to do with that? Like, it's just the leaps of logic people go through to justify, you know, minimizing what's happened here is, you know, never fails to surprise me.
Right. And never fails to alarm me. I think it's very important that people watch your film, American Mindfuck. That film sums up a lot of what we talked about in about 40 minutes, so that's very important.
No.
I think it was also very important, that moment that you looked at Facebook when you were first initially doing this investigation, and you saw how radicalized people you knew had become. I think it's very important for me that I never forget that we do this work, you know, in the hopes that we can have some sort of, you know, impact on, you know, humanity in our small way, but it's also very personal.
Yeah, I mean, so I'd been looking into this cult for a couple weeks, and I hadn't been to Facebook in a long time because it was such a shithole.
Yeah.
But I went back there, you know, just to kind of check in and see what was going on. It was like, oh my God, like a bunch of people I knew, some distant relatives, you know, other people were QAnon members.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And not only that, but their extended families. Like, it was infiltrating the entire thing.
Yeah.
And you know, I wrote a Medium article called "QAnon is coming for you and your family."
He did. Let's take a look if it matches what he just said. QAnon is coming for you and your family. Let's see here. Jim said he went back to check on things, you know, and everything there. Here's what he says in his article. I never go to Facebook anymore. It depresses me. There are many people I love there, but recently I can't bring myself to do it at all. It was far too toxic even before QAnon exploded. I went there yesterday to post my story about QAnon and say goodbye. So he went to post this article. I only have a few hundred friends there. When I did, I was inundated with my own family and friends telling me they are losing people to this cult. So he tells a story about a couple people. And then he tells about some people from Twitter and things about that. And he calls them, he doesn't use this term anymore, which I find interesting. I can already see the people affected by QAnon, PAQs, and he calls them that. He doesn't use that lingo anymore. And then he gives some advice. Here's take inventory of your friends and family. For every PAQ you know, it is imperative to find someone close to them who is not affected and educate them. Number 3, protect your loved ones. And number 4, protect yourself. And that's kind of what the article is. But he wasn't going there to kind of do what he says. He kind of rewrites his story a lot, which I find gross, but that's kind of what all grifters do. But I don't think that's really shocking. But I pick up on those little tidbits, which I think is important whenever they try to rewrite their stories.
It's very true.
I wanted to be very clear. And, you know, in the meantime, since I wrote that, I don't know, another 20, 25% of America has been captured by this death cult.
I'll just make up some figures.
I mean, at that point, QAnon was still relatively, QAnon itself was still not a giant story. But quickly became.
So
it
I guess the last thing I want to say, and I think we have to call this episode "Still Right." So perfect, still right, so perfect. Is that you just wrote a piece about how the second insurrection, which just took place in the halls of Congress, is more dangerous than the first one. And can you give our viewers just a couple words on that so they know what to be prepared for 2023?
Yeah, I wrote a piece that said that January 6, 23 was worse than the first insurrection. There were a couple of reasons for that. One, the Republicans in the House, after completely disempowering McCarthy, because the Insurrection Caucus, the 20 people most responsible for January 6th, were controlling the United States Congress and controlling the narrative on national television for a fucking week, right? Inside Congress, just to elect traitors, right? So the thing is, on January 6th, they cleared the Congress out, right? Eventually, after the Charles Flynn got done with letting people in, you know, they cleared the building. But on January 6, 23, they were in the building.
Yeah.
And that shit show was just the opening signal, because all that to destroy everything about America. They're going to go after every Fauci and every 3-letter agency and the entire government, and they're going to fucking, you know, it's just going to be Elon Musk's Twitter files, but in Congress. And speaking of Elon Musk, on the same day, 1/6, he let Mike Flynn back on the platform.
We know.
Which is just a
he said it like 3 times already.
Fuck you to America. There's no other way to interpret allowing the man who planned a violent insurrection that got multiple people killed.
He did not plan
he let
it.
him back on the 2-year anniversary of one of his biggest crimes. Disgusting.
The people that was involved in doing
the confluence of those events said to me, everything that happened at the insurrection is now fortified. It's now inside, right? In Congress, on Twitter. The owner of Twitter let him back on. He can do anything the fuck he wants now.
Because he's on Twitter?
And he is. So that was the reason why I felt that way.
Yeah, and the owner of Twitter, as Fiona Hill says, is transmitting messages for Putin, which brings us full circle to what our fight is. We can't meme this away.
Oh,
we can't, eat popcorn and
hold on. I have something for this. Heidi said we can't meme our way out, but you would be shocked at what Heidi said. Oh, Winks, you are the best. And I just want to say something about Winks. They were one of the first people. I've had the Into This Universe. I've been doing this for a little over a year now. And there were several people before I said that I was behind this account that I confided in, because I wanted people to know that it was an honest account. It wasn't some kind of like troll account, or that there weren't good intentions behind it. And they were one of the first people, including like a handful, I'd say about 10 people. And I just want to say that Amber, that was Amber. I'm sorry. Amber and Winks. They knew too. There were some, there were some people that knew. And I just want to say, like, Winks has been pretty instrumental all along in helping me. And if it weren't for their assistance, there were a lot that I couldn't do with this account, because it's a lot of work. It really is. Thank you, sis. Amber. Okay. What was I? Oh, so I lost a little track telling everybody, like, thank you for your help. Like, it really is, like, this isn't a sole kind of venture. It takes a lot of help. Okay, lost my train of thought again. Oh, back to Heidi. She said, we can't meme our way out of this. So on Thursday on their live on RadPod, she was saying, you're going to be shocked. Maybe not, because they tend to lie a lot on this. Okay. Where was this? This way. This is it. Share this tab instead. Here we go.
Pushing back, and just in terms of
this is about
kind of narrative warfare.
I love of memes.
So Phyllis Fong is my new superhero. Okay,
right.
Phyllis Fong, an unlikely superhero. The U.S. Department of Agriculture Inspector General. Super exciting, right? Phyllis fucking Fong, Asian lady, looks to be about 50, 55, something like that, made them perp walk her out of her office. Trump fired. I find that meme. I've made a couple of badass memes.
Badass memes.
Right,
they're gonna save us, guys. Badass memes.
So Phyllis, badass little Phyllis, they had to physically escort her out of the building. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened, MAGA went absolutely bonkers. Oh my God, they're owning the libs. Ha ha ha. Look, he's such a boss. Get out of there, deep state, whatever.
MAGA or some Russian trolls.
And I saw absolutely, literally no pushback from anyone there and at all. And so I just sort of like stole their graphic and just flipped it right around and said, what we need is some more Phyllis energy up in this motherfucking house, right? Yeah. What we need are people like that who are just not, all she was doing was, because she was illegally fired. There was a provision intentionally put in, passed by law. It's a law in 2022 saying you can't do what Donald Trump did. You have to give a reason, and you have to give Congress 30 days notice before you do it. And she knew her rights, and that's all. She just knew her rights, and she was not going to let them, terrorize them out of resigning or walking out or taking, any step back from what was an attack on her. And to me, that felt like a fantastic thing to and now, briefly, X is just a big video game, right? There's a leaderboard, right?
Yeah.
And so
there's a leaderboard on X, apparently.
If there's a big hot topic, and
not trending topics, it's the leaderboard
Phyllis
now.
Fong getting getting perp-walked out of USDA. They didn't even know what she did. They just thought it was hilarious. On the leaderboard was nothing but MAGAs like laughing it up. But by the time I got done, at least I was in the top 2 or 3. I was
nice.
I'm up there. It was like 40,000 likes or something like that.
Wow.
And all it was just thank you. Well, this was the goofy one from later, but when I was pushing it, go click on the one under it. That was the one.
Oh, that's amazing.
You get the idea. And to me, like, celebrate people like that. Mindy, yes, do not comply, right?
Hello, Mindy.
Like turn that shit around in their face. Remember that? Do not comply. Don't get the jab.
Yeah.
Well, don't comply with their literally illegal, like, racist Genesis dark MAGA bullshit, whatever it is.
Because we've been through so much, I forget what legends you guys are in mimetic warfare. Like, I just remembered like the origin story of Radpod. I am still laughing at that meme. That was good, guys. That was good.
I haven't been on Twitter in like 3 years, and I still got people trashing me. It's amazing. Like rent-free kids.
Such a liar.
All right.
You big scary. You big scary.
We don't speak of those.
Although, no, there is one thing that is serious that bothers me is that
I think, hold on 1 second while I have this open. Come on. Oh, that's Jim being homophobic. Where is it? Wait. Oh my gosh. Nope, video. Guess I don't. Well, there's Jim being homophobic. Will you marry me? I'm thinking about gay sex right now. Typical Jim. Now we'll back this up a little bit where Jim says, Heidi says you can't meme your way out of this, but she loves mimetic warfare.
So that was the reason why I felt that way.
Yeah, and the owner of Twitter, as Fiona Hill says, is transmitting messages for Putin, which brings us full circle to what our fight is. We can't meme this away. We can't, eat popcorn and, watch it all burn. We all have to take action.
Can't meme our way out.
This is the action
you
that I like
Thursday,
to take,
Heidi.
telling these
So
stories
fake.
to bring the truth in a time of just mass deception. So
When this is over, I'm going to show.
Thanks, Jim.
High fives.
Thank you, Heidi.
Nazi
Love you,
Polish
man.
account.
Love you, man.
I love you back.
It was more than all right. Well, that concludes this portion of our Radpod holiday series. we do hope democracy survives this year. And you just summed up. I was interviewed on Byline podcast, right after the midterms, and Adrian Goldberg expected me to be joyful. I'm like, no. Congress is going to be a dangerous shit show, and here we are. First week of the new year. So lots of work ahead.
The fact that we didn't lose the Senate, that we lost far less in the House, that is in fact a good sign that America is not completely brainwashed. But we still ended up. The Supreme Court has fucked the judiciary for decades. And the legislature is completely disabled. All we got is the executive, and guess what? The legislature is going to go after the executive for the next 2 years.
And I am going to ask our Department of Justice to explain why insurrectionists can be in Congress. So let's answer that question.
That's counterintuitive. It does.
Yeah, it does. It does. That is something we will be
maybe
focusing
it's just,
your letter
maybe
to
it's
the
just
president.
Us. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's just us.
I think in in Libya and fucking whatever third world shitholes you can think of, this is perfectly normal.
Right. I have a great quote that I'm going to take us out on. I am putting together for Betty Dangerous Substack. I'm putting together what our Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens had to say in his dissent about Citizens United. And I think this is one of the most important words of our time. If taken seriously, our colleagues' assumption that the identity of a speaker has no relevance to the government's ability to regulate political speech would lead to some remarkable conclusions. Such an assumption would have accorded the propaganda broadcast to our troops by Tokyo Rose during World War II the same protection as speech by Allied commanders.
We've got Tokyo Rose, on Fox all day.
So I'm going to be raising that because we can no longer allow our freedoms to be weaponized to destroy our country, and that's what our work is going into 2023.
Oh, so that is the story of Jim. Now, if you'll bear with me 1 second here, I'm going to open up. Oh, here we go. Let me get this open. Share this screen. Oh. Okay. Nope. Oh, I need to make it bigger. Okay. Stop sharing that. Sure, I'm going to show Hi-Fi's where did it go? I gotta make it a little bigger. There we go. Okay. No, that isn't it. Why is it not showing? No, not files. Oh, there it is. Okay. Perfect. Okay, let me make that a little bigger. Let me scroll in. Here we have, this is, and the reason we were all able to deduce that this is, because Hi-Fi says he likes to be, Hi-Fi thinks he's very, I think Hi-Fi still thinks that he is kind of living on a, like back on Something Awful, or he likes to talk about his heyday on Google Plus and the Chans. You can see here Jackie Singh is talking to an account called Kroll. I can't pronounce that last name, but this is an account that has been posting some pretty disgusting stuff to a lot of people that I know. He hasn't responded anything to me, but you can see Jackie Singh saying the below tweet is hidden by this platform as spam, and it is written in Polish and you can translate it. And of course, it's been arguing with a lot of accounts that we know. And if you scroll down, it posts the stupid Peter Thiel video that Hi-Fi will post everywhere, whatever he has, one of his 1,000,001 new accounts that he's made. I think he's like on probably 40 at this point now that's been banned from Twitter, and he loves his Peter Thiel video. And he'll always talk about Peter Thiel, and you can tell by the accounts that he follows. You can tell by his disgusting commentary that he posts, who he attacks on Twitter, and who he retweets. So this is Hi-Fi's newest account. And Jackie, for some reason, doesn't think this is a bot. So yeah, that's Hi-Fi's new account. This is, if you go and look on this account, anybody who is here or who might be watching, you can see some of the disgusting stuff he's posted. But this is a host of Radicalized Truths of Us for anybody here and seeing that. Oops, stop sharing. Okay. I am going to, hold on 1 second. I need to visit the restroom real quick. So I'm going to, hold on, let me switch this over here. Speaker and speaker. Picture in picture. I need to go to the restroom real quick. So before I proceed to, may they, yeah. I need, oh, excuse me. I need to use the restroom real quick. But we're going to take a look at, let me share this tab instead. We're going to take a look at Jim's interview on
5 words.
Jeez, let me just skip this here real quick and then pause it.
Dementia is now known as type 3 diabetes.
Breaking news.
We're going to take a look at Jim's interview on the Thom Hartmann show and talk about we're going to listen to Jim's interview recently on the Thom Hartmann show and talk about a little interesting information that we've come across with Thom Hartmann. And this is thanks to some digging that Winks came across. But I do have to use the restroom. So I'm just going to play. I started off playing a song by Ren here at the beginning. So I'm going to go to the middle of it while I take a restroom break so there's not some dead air here. Give me 1 second here. It's a really good song, and he does have a true story behind it. All right. Much better. All right. Let me get my Thom Hartmann notes out here. I have come to find Thom Hartmann quite insufferable, listening to him a few times. As I understand it, he came from, I didn't write down my notes before this. Came from, what was that station that all the progressives came from, like Rachel Maddow and that lot. Why can't I think of it now? Radio Free America or something like that. And he's been a pretty progressive voice for a while, but I think he's kind of gotten, I don't think. He has gone very blue and on, like he interviewed Spoodamore, which was where I first listened to him before he started interviewing Heidi and Jim. And this is the second or third interview he's done with Jim. So the title of this is, hold on 1 second. America Lost to Trump's Cult, How QAnon Destroyed America, with Jim Stewartson. Now, the interesting thing is in this, it takes them about half of this interview to even talk about QAnon. So I was like, geez, when are they going to get to the QAnon part?
There's a federal judge in Seattle just blocked Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. Judge Kogenhauer, if I'm pronouncing it right, he's a Ronald Reagan appointee, scolded the government attorneys, telling them, quote, "I've been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented is as clear as this one. This is a blatantly constitutional order." So, we'll see where this goes. On the line with us is Jim Stewartson. He's the co-host of the Radicalized Truth Survives podcast and writes the mind-war.com Substack, which if you don't subscribe
do
to,
not
I
recommend.
Strongly recommend. He's also on Truth
Thank you, Muggsy.
Socialist,
Air
Jim
America.
Stewartson.
Could not for the life of me remember.
All that stuff, bsky.social. Jim, welcome back to the program. You were writing
Jim
about
is so cleaned up for this. He wanted this interview. He wanted to look sharp.
Your article
look
is
at that,
soft
man.
on
He even
crime,
has gel
the
in his
rule
hair.
of QAnon, the U.S. Attorney for Washington D.C.
Eyebrows are nice. Beard's all trimmed up.
Along with Mike Flynn and some of these other QAnon people. What's the story here? What's going on?
Well, in the midst of all of the chaos and intentional sort of drama that's going on, a lot of these sort of lower down replacements are happening without much fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to point out, some of the more dangerous ones, even if it's just by example. Ed Martin is a Christo-fascist lunatic. Let's just put it out there. If you look in his bio, it says right now, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, and then right below that is phyllisschlafly.com.
Jim is obsessed with Phyllis Schlafly.
81% of desk workers experience neck, back, or hip pain, according to the...
Ed Martin is basically the face of Phyllis Schlafly's legacy. And if people don't know who that woman is, she's one of the most dangerous and anti-democratic figures, in my opinion, in American history.
She used to be all over the media.
What's that?
And she used to be all over the media. And in the first 10 years or so that I was doing this program, at least once a year, she would come on this program and debate me.
Oh, that's fascinating. Because, well, Ed Martin is her.
I don't think Jim expected that from Thom Hartmann. He was like, oh, really? Like, as much as Jim has supposedly investigated Phyllis Schlafly, I don't think he like looked at Tom's interviews and noticed that she was on there yearly.
Disciple.
That threw Jim.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
with the Eagle Forum, she had this thing called the Eagle Forum.
He won't let
and she
Tom
was
talk.
the lead opponent to the Equal Rights Amendment. I mean, Phyllis Schlafly is the reason why the Equal Rights Amendment didn't get through ratification on
Jim
time.
doesn't want a conversation.
And
he wants to lecture.
also, Phyllis Schlafly was largely responsible for the birth of the pro-life movement.
Yes.
Right? The anti-abortion movement.
Yeah, she was fanatically anti-abortion.
And one of the interesting things about that is her partner, one of her best friends, was Helen Flynn, Mike Flynn's mom.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, they were dear friends. And Mike Flynn used to get dragged to Phyllis Schlafly's events. So
that's what happened.
And Helen would say it's forced family fun, that according to Mike Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, so these people are connected very deeply. Also, Mike Flynn has a nonprofit. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, called America's Future.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gather around
it's
the fire,
interesting that
kids.
it's named
Grandpa's
America's
gonna tell
Future
the same
because
story he
it
always
was
tells.
named by Phyllis Schlafly's good friend Jack Singlob in 1946. Because Jack Singlob, who was a strident anti-communist, basically felt that the wrong side won World War II. Yeah. And so he started he started America's Future, which was one of the main sort of mouthpieces for Phyllis Schlafly for
So
decades.
Mike Flynn has taken this over, or he's reinvented?
Has taken it over. So briefly, here's the story about how that happened. Singlob, at 98 years old, Singlob was a co-founder of the CIA. That's how old.
Don't interrupt me, Tom. I'm telling you a story.
At 98 years old, in 2020, he wrote a letter from America's Future to Bill Barr, saying, "Please, can you drop the charges on the Patriot Mike Flynn?" And then
does that all the time.
In May of 2020, Bill Barr did.
Now, is he still alive, Singlob?
No, he died at 100 years old in 2021.
Wow, amazing.
So Singlob was one of the main actors in Iran-Contra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was one of the people in Central America working for Reagan, doing deals for drugs and guns and all of that stuff. And the person, as I'm sure you know, who helped cover up Iran-Contra was Bill Barr.
Yeah. Well, the Christmas Eve massacre, I mean, that was December 24th, 1992, as George Herbert Walker Bush had lost the election and was going to have to leave office in 3 weeks. And the Iran-Contra investigation, I mean, they'd already nailed 5 people, including the Weinberger. And it was Bill Barr who was the Attorney General at the time, and he advised George Herbert Walker Bush. I've written several pieces about this over at Hartmann Report, lengthy pieces with lots of links and all kinds of stuff. He advised George Herbert Walker Bush to pardon all of them in order to shut down the investigation, because the investigation would have shown that the Reagan campaign was working with the Iranians to screw Jimmy Carter. And that was the end of the Iran-Contra investigation. Not to mention, using the money from the Iranians, selling the Iranians weapons to buy guns and ship them down to Central America.
Indeed. Yeah. So Singlob was in the middle of all of that.
Wow.
And at the time, Mike Flynn was a young officer in Central America, running psychological warfare operations and assisting Singlob. He brags about it. Wow. So all of this goes way back, is the point.
Yeah.
as we move to, closer to the future, right, or closer to the present, I should say, on just as an example, on October 28th, 2020, Ed Martin went on Twitter and quote tweeted Mike Flynn with WWG1WGA.
Where we go one, we go all. This is the slogan of QAnon.
That is the QAnon slogan.
Yeah, he's usually, from what I can see on his Twitter account, he's usually posting, Christian messages. But he also just refused to drop charges against 2 of the January 6th defendants for not showing up in court. This was just in today's news.
Yeah, I saw that. I'd be interested to see, where that goes. But
so, now that he's the official prosecutor for DC, I mean, maybe he's going to get more mainstream. You think?
No. Look at his Twitter feed now. It's he's a lunatic. He is a crusader.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is really important to understand about this whole strain, right, is that
before Jim gets going, I want to tell everybody here, follow Dr. Matthew Taylor on Twitter, Blue Sky, and look up his book. For the life of me, I can't think of the name right now. It's down on my bookshelf. I can't think of it. He's written some other books too, but he is the one you should listen to on the topic Jim's about to talk about, not Jim Stewartson.
A lot of it comes literally from the Crusades.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Pete Hegseth, the tattoos on his chest.
Exactly. And there's a reason
I'll make sure it's
why
in my sourcing whenever I put everything under. Hunter, go lay down. That's my dog. Sorry. I'll make sure I put it in my sourcing when I put everything up on Spotify.
Mike Flynn and Eric Prince and these guys are very, very passionate about Pete Hegseth. It's because he is part of this really ancient Christo-fascist crusader mentality that believes that, the one true church, needs to take over the world.
Yeah. So
and,
what's
and he's part of it. I mean, a big front line.
Tom cannot get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, I get it. We're talking with Jim Stewartson, by the way.
This
He's
isn't
the co-host of the Radicalized
Jim.
Truth
You're getting
Survives
interviewed.
podcast and writes the Jim-Stewartson, Stewartson over on Blue Sky. Jim, what is the status? And by the way, we're going to hit a hard break here that I have no control over in about 2.5 minutes. What's the status of QAnon right now?
Well, just took over the government, basically.
How can you say that? I mean, it's Trump. Trump likes QAnon because they bring him votes, but he's not QAnon, is he?
Oh, I mean, no. Trump was retweeting QAnon within weeks of its formation.
Mm-hmm.
He was perfectly aware of it the entire time. There's a reason why he put. So Ed Martin was not just a QAnon guy, but he literally helped create the insurrection on January 6th. He was there.
Thanks,
his Eagle Forum was helping organize buses and all of that stuff.
So he's running Eagle Forum now? Phyllis Schlafly's old organization? Or he's just affiliated with it?
No, he's the president of the Eagle Forum.
Oh, wow.
Or was until he became U.S. attorney for D.C.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, Kash Patel, for example, who is supposed to be the FBI director, and full disclosure, filed a lawsuit against me in Nevada, is an
$80,000 after all this.
blatant QAnon promoter. Right. And is also one of Mike Flynn's, good friends, and is being pushed by QAnon and that entire side of things. So, where is QAnon now? And I'm being a little flip about QAnon taking over the government.
Yeah,
but
you
not
are.
really. Yeah. These people, the whole Christo-fascist thing, the QAnon thing, and a lot of this neo-Nazi stuff that we're seeing, Elon Musk be very blatant about. These all have.
It's all kind of the same stuff. So has QAnon been growing in the last couple of years? I mean, I think most people's latest or last recollection of them was, down in Dallas waiting for John Kennedy to show up.
That was -48.
Well,
John Kennedy.
That's unfortunately just terrible reporting.
Yeah, I get it.
Because QAnon is not just these kooky people, doing kooky stuff. At this point, there are tens and tens and tens of millions of people who have absorbed that ideology and literally believe it
around the world.
Not in America.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And it's even
that's a
several
hard
years
commercial
ago,
like Alex
it was
Jones.
up to I think 25% of people had some belief in a democratic cabal that was trying to take over, right?
Amazing.
And it has not gotten any better.
Jim, I'm out of time here. Check out the Radicalized Truth Survives podcast and mind-war.com for Jim's Substack. Jim, thanks a lot for dropping by.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
He cut that shit off real quick. Sure does. It sure does. It sure does, Amber. Okay, let me open this up. Now, there's some interesting stuff that that Winks posted about Thom Hartmann that I did not know, and I don't know if many people do know this. And I'm very sure that Jim doesn't know, and if he does know, I can't imagine that Jim doesn't know, and I think he's probably obfuscated this, and because there's no way in his research about Mike Flynn that he did not come across this and has just not put the information out there. Let me scroll down to okay. First, we're going to talk about Thom Hartmann sticking with RT America despite resignations over Putin's actions in Ukraine. And this is when the war started here. Why can't I click on it? Hello, link. Maybe it's because my head's in the way. Hold on. Let me move my head. Oh, no, I guess I didn't put the link. That would be helpful. Okay. I have it saved somewhere else. Picture in picture. Let me go to my Discord here real quick. One moment here, please. I did not know this about Thom Hartmann. I didn't even know that he had a show at RT America. I didn't know that his thing was there. Okay. Nope. Okay. There it is. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Open the chat back up too. Okay, here we go. And we'll just read over a little bit of this, and I'll post it in the sourcing, of course, but just so that people have a general idea of what Thom Hartmann was doing, as there were some people showing some guts and leaving RT today. In the wake of last week's on-air resignation of RT anchor Liz Wall over the Russian government's actions in the Ukraine, Thom Hartmann announced on his RT program today that he is editorially independent and, quote, "We value the relationship with organizations like RT." Quote, "I own my own show," Hartmann said in an apparently pre-recorded segment at the beginning of today's episode of The Big Picture. Referring to the drama at RT, he said, quote, "It seems important to clarify my status and position." He claimed that he has total editorial independence and nobody at RT has ever in any way tried to influence our content. Wall charged RT with exerting strong, if indirect, control over the content on the cable news channel, which is widely regarded as pro-Putin. Quote, in order to succeed there, you don't question, Wall said. In a way, you kind of suppress any concerns that you have and play the game. Wall also made her feelings clear. It actually makes me feel sick that I work there, she said. It's not a sound news organization, not when your agenda is making America look bad, Wall said, adding that RT fools hipster generation. I'm sorry. Wall said, adding that RT fools hipster generation Americans into believing Kremlin propaganda. Hartmann did not address the crisis in Ukraine on his television program, but during his radio program earlier in the day, he discussed the situation with Stephen Cohen, who has written recent pieces in The Nation magazine entitled Demonizing Putin and Distorting Russia. And then... During the interview, Hartmann and Cohen accepted as fact the conspiracy theory that snipers on the side of the new anti-Russian government fired on their own side in the main square in Kiev so that the now ousted president, Viktor Yanukovych, would be blamed. And then we have down here at the beginning, Hartmann has in the past defended Russia on issues like gay rights, saying that Russia is not as bad as Saudi Arabia in terms of gay rights, while pointing out that the United States did to give women the right to vote until 1920. So Thom Hartmann is kind of a asshole, to say the least. And then we have, this I think is the most interesting thing. Jim talks about all the time, one of his biggest stories linking Mike Flynn to Putin is the gala that took place in Russia. And he'll always show the picture with Mike Flynn and Jill Stein sitting at that table. Thom Hartmann also attended that gala. And there's an article that I have of that. Clinton campaign's Kremlin deception. And we'll look at a piece of that article here. Oh, gosh, I should have left my Discord open. Give me one more second. Here we go. Okay, here we go. And the important part is they talk a lot about the Hillary campaign manager here, but the important part comes down here when it talks about who was at this dinner. I want to make sure I get to the part where it mentions, okay, here we go. Trump was joined at his first intelligence briefing on August 17th at FBI headquarters in New York City by Flynn and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. As Huffington Post wrote, Flynn, quote, was paid by a Russian state-funded television network to speak at its 10th anniversary gala, and Putin attended that conference. Reuters reported that Flynn, quote, was pictured sitting at the head table with Putin at the conference. That's the picture Jim always shows with Jill Stein sitting there. In an August 15th article, Flynn told the Washington Post that his speaking engagement was arranged by his speaker's bureau and that he was paid for it. He said he was introduced to Putin but did not speak to him. Flynn was one of many speakers at the conference. Others included former London Mayor Ken Livingstone, Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein, and liberal U.S. media commentator Thom Hartmann. And that is right there in that part of the article. But that doesn't fit Jim's convenient narrative. So I just thought that was interesting when we found that. But Jim, that's something that Jim will never address. And I don't know if he'll add that to his come sit around the fire as we talk about how Mike Flynn is an agent of Russia. So I thought that that is something that we definitely needed to share and talk about. And I thank Winks for finding that because I've never looked into Thom Hartmann very much. And I think it was pretty shitty of him to blow off working for RT and just being like, well, whatever, you know what they're doing to Ukraine. And also to be it's quite a deflection when people are like, well, what Saudi Arabia is worse than what Russia's doing to the gay people. And hey, the United States didn't give women the right to vote until 1920. It's kind of a cop out, and a lot of people do that. The whataboutism. So, yeah, I wanted to share that. Let me take a peek here too, because I know, let me just look at these messages here. That's a weaponized homophobia. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any of these tweets that I wanted to show for Jim, because we can shortly show them again. Okay, I think I covered those pretty well. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to closing out the evening with, I'll probably set the moods, maybe turn down the lights a little bit, light a candle for a little Fox Undercover. And I think Winks found, it's pretty funny. Who was it? Greg O'Lear wrote the review for Heidi's book and gave it like, I should have pulled that he reviewed Heidi's Fox Undercover book. Questions, comments? No? And the reason I think it's fine that Heidi wrote a erotic novel, I do, but it's the writing in this that is so very terrible. Like, you know, I have it, whatever, you know, I got it. It's just that she claims she's this great writer, and the review that Greg O'Lear gave for it is it's something else. Why is that still showing on my screen? That thing. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. We'll turn down the lights a little bit for the Heidi thing. It's a little bright in here. We'll set the mood for reading a steamy book. Reading some, if you haven't heard this before, anybody, this is something else. There we go. Let me get over here. Oh, that's real dark. We got to turn that up a little bit. I disappeared. There we go. All right. Maybe not the yellow light. There we go. That's better. I don't want to disappear too much into Fox Undercover. I don't have any good. I'm 48 years old. I don't have any good sexy music for that. That just so happens to be a strawberry shortcake candle either, too. Okay, let's see here. All right, let's see. So this is called Fox Undercover: 4 lovers, 1 husband, and rarely a bad breakup, by Heidi Sigmund Kuda. So there's a quote that starts as it says, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough." Mae West. Introduction. Fox Undercover is a work of semi-fiction. Any likeness to real persons is merely wishful thinking. XO. HSC. And there's a picture of I'll show you what there's a picture of. There's a picture of a sexy woman there in an ocean with a. Okay. Let's see here. We'll start here. Okay. Cupid, draw back your bow and let your arrow flow. The Amy Winehouse version, Cupid. Now, I want you to keep in mind, she worked for a Fox affiliate in Los Angeles. She was a music writer. She worked for Britbart. What else did she work for? She works for Byline Times now, and she writes her Substack. So she also wrote, was it Ice-T's autobiography. And who was that band also she wrote their book for? I can't think of them right now. Green Day or somebody like that. Okay. Chapter 1, 4 lovers. So I saw lover number 3 last night, who used to be lover number 2, and I felt like I was cheating on lover number 1. Not the sex part, just the kiss. There was no cheating in my world. Monogamy is a nice fairy tale, but unless you're a bird, beaver, or meerkat, it's pretty impractical. It's the kiss that made me feel guilty. I don't kiss lover number 2. We just fuck. But lover number 3 is a passionate Italian, and he demands kisses. And since lover number 1 and I are in love, I generally reserve all my kisses for him. I don't have this problem with lover number 4, who used to be lover number 1, but he's always been a lousy kisser. I'd insert a flowchart so you can keep up, but I'm no math magician. My name is Sunny. I'm a grown-ass woman, and my lovers are the best cockslingers in the West. God, I forgot what this is like. I totally did. I kept my lovers at 4 because I've got no room for anyone else. They've all been grandfathered in, and it would take death or impotency to add to the roster. Don't get me wrong. Monogamy can be swell. I spent my 20s and 30s as a serial monogamist, going from one long-term relationship to another. But all too often, love has an expiration date. It's just too damn bad. It's not stamped on the bottom of men's feet, so you can plan accordingly. So I wait for a John Wayne type to come back from the dead and sweep me off my feet. I make do with my 4 lovers. 2 of the 4 are drummers, which we did hear in the story of Jim. 2 are named Rex. 3 of them travel the world and are rarely imported at the same time. What are these, sailors? Are they drummer sailors? And 1 is going through a brutal divorce. And naturally, he's the one I'm in love with. I'm married too, but in the Gloria Swanson Ulrich von gosh, the way she writes. But in the Gloria Swanson Ulrich von Stronum Sunset Boulevard sense, my super ex-husband and I have been estranged for a decade, but he knows I'd be lost without him. My complicated love life makes for a good excuse when I get hit on. I politely explain, "Aw, man, I got a husband and 4 lovers. My dance card is full, but I do appreciate the offer." Usually they're too dumbfounded to say anything, and I just keep moving. Occasionally they raise their hand and volunteer for 5th position, but I explain, I tried that once, and it got messy. I really cannot believe. I cannot. Okay. Okay, now we go on to chapter 2, and this is about lover number 1. I can't remember which one is the 9-inch nailed one. We'll just read this, and then we'll save some of the other. Oh my gosh, this is 101 pages long. I forgot. I used to be Snow White, but I drifted. Mae West. Chapter 2, lover number 1. I call him Fox Undercover, FU for short. I got my start in TV news producing for Fox Undercover, and it just seemed like the appropriate nickname. I've been breaking up with him for years, but it never seemed to stick. He outwits me every time. We've known each other for a decade through a mutual best friend. He quietly listens to me pour my heart He quietly listened to me pour my heart out to my friend, not saying anything year after year, just listening. One night he'd heard enough. He cornered me after I was leaving my friend's nightclub, towering over me in a dark Hollywood alleyway. He said, "You're gonna kiss me." "Like hell I am," I said. "Just one kiss," he said. "Fuck off," I said. "One small kiss," he said. I looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. He always wore a newsboy hat that shadowed his face, loose button-down shirts and slouchy pants that hung around his hips. I didn't know what was going on under that baggy shirt, but I began to have my suspicions. Oh, dear God. I had just gotten back from Paris, and I was feeling profoundly lonely. I had gone to research locations for my first screenplay. She wrote a screenplay? I totally forgot. I haven't read this in a while. And all of those lovers along the River sign had pierced my heart with an ache that was truly unbearable. Sure, I could have got laid in Paris. The city is filled with horny cab drivers and prowling night owls who cruise the streets at 2 a.m. looking for lonely hearts. But I was traveling with my daughter, and there would be no shenanigans. I was also very much in love with lover number 4, who at the time was lover number 1. The CEO BFG. The CEO, I don't know. My very own Mr. Big. His name was Rex. Raider Rex. Rex loved me too, but he loved money more, and he was always getting on planes in hot pursuit. She wrote this way, in hot pursuit of dollar bills. I can't. I really can't. When Rex and I saw each other, it was fireworks and lightning. He was Thor. He was Thor, god of cock. Rarely had two people experience the passion the poets write about simultaneously, but they were slapping the sheets. It was on like Donkey Kong. He'd strip off his business suit smelling like Old Spice and mall cologne, and I'd get the ride of a lifetime. He was a former athlete with massive thighs, and when he made love to me, it was like experiencing Baryshnikov dancing inside of me. Oh my God. It was pure ballet and opera, complete with arias and orchestras. But he lived his life on planes, and I simply wasn't cut out for pining. I had my own business to attend to, and pining was a terrible distraction. I wanted Rex in the flesh, not a weekend romp squeezed in between month-long business trips, and with only a text message to keep me warm at night. There were times when I used to imagine replacing my heart with a cell phone so I could feel his text pulsing inside. Good God. His business drive left a slew of beautiful ex-wives in his wake, and I had no interest in being his future ex-wife. No way. Incredibly bad writing. So there I was on another lonely night getting a request for a kiss. There in the flesh was Fox Undercover, as I dubbed him on the spot. He did a fine job hiding his beauty to the casual observer. He got right in my face, daring me to just one kiss. I sized him up like Walter Hudson, prospecting for gold in the treasure of the Sierra Madre. Aren't you married? I asked. One kiss from you and I could die happy, he said. That doesn't answer my question. We're getting divorced. We sleep in separate rooms, he said. I had heard about that. Everyone had heard about that. His wife was a celebrity, and that made him Mr. So-and-so. Not my problem, I said, and began walking out the door. Let me know when you get that mess resolved. One kiss and I'll never bother you again. Oh man, I was warned about divorcing men. I wanted no part of that. I kept walking, but I felt a stab in my heart. I ached for lips against mine. I didn't care whose they were. I needed something to break the spell of Raider Rex. Raider Rex. I cannot. Okay. So I could move on with my life. This man just wanted a kiss. This man just wanted to kiss me. Wait, this man who wanted to kiss me would simply have to do just a kiss, no harm, no foul. I prayed God would forgive me for the indiscretion of a divorcing man. I understood separations and separate bedrooms. That's how it had been with my super ex-husband. When we weren't living in separate homes, we were living in separate parts of the home we co-owned together. Parents who had become friends. I heard FU footsteps behind me. God damn it, I thought. Meet me on Mulholland, I whispered without turning around. I drove up the hills of Bel Air to my favorite lookout spot to think and listen to the owls and coyotes. I was a veteran nightcrawler, having written a nightclub column in the Los Angeles Times for 15 years. I'd spent years taking showers at 10 p.m., readying myself to creep out at night, and I rarely, if ever, went to sleep before last call. I hadn't known a drink in over a decade, but old habits die hard. I knew every doorman and every secret. I pulled into the Overlook, looking out at what realtors call the poor man's view, the vast expanse of the South Valley, a view that I marveled at for all of its twinkly urbanness. I cut the engine and heard nothing but stillness. I still had my TV face on, professional makeup for my job as a TV news anchor, a far cry from the punk hippie I was in real life. Punk rocker Heidi. One moment, I need a drink. You can tell how hot and bothered I am. I heard the sound of the wheels on the gravel as he pulled up right behind me. I got out of the car looking forward to getting the kiss over with when he came at me like Robert De Niro in Raging Bull. I didn't know whether to pucker up or duck. I felt his lips on mine as he backed me onto the car, and it was a good kiss, a great kiss, the hungriest kiss I had ever felt, one of the best kisses in the world. Oh gosh. As his tongue entered me, I felt him rip off my pants. I pushed him off me and cried, I'm a woman. Hold on. I pushed him off of me and cried, I'm a woman of God. Can I just say this sounds very rapey? He said, hallelujah, and dove headfirst into third base, right there on Mulholland, with the owls and the coyotes whooping and howling. This was supposed to just be a kiss, I said, while I pushed his head harder into me, my fingers running through his long, wavy, soft hair. Do you want me to stop? He said, barely coming up for air. I'll stop right now. And then he dove back into me. If you stop, I'll die, I heard myself cry. Where the hell did that come from? The canyons of loneliness. I reached into the window of my car, tossed out the contents of my purse, and plucked out a condom. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. He plunged deep into me, right there in Mulholland. I'd never felt anything quite like it before. I didn't know it at the time what it was, and I didn't care. Tears were sliding down my cheeks, tears of relief. There would be a life after Raider Rex. It would be with FU, but at least, it wouldn't be with FU, but at least I knew I could still feel things. I was cured. Rex could get on a plane and keep on flying because I was capable of having operatic, aria-atic, orgastic sex without him. And then the craziest thing happened. I heard a voice whisper in my ear, I love you. I'm in love with you. It's always been you. And that'll be that. So that is a former writer for the Los Angeles Times. Let's just get this light back up here. Oh, wait, I shut off everything. I'm going to leave my candle on, though, because that lemon meringue smells good. So that's that. That is Heidi Kuda, a.k.a. Betty Dangerous's book that she wrote, Los Angeles Times writer. Yeah, it's something else. Yeah, so that was it. But I want to thank everybody for coming. First night tonight. This will be every Tuesday, 8 p.m. I think next week will be, I think we'll do Hi-Fi's interview that Heidi does. They don't let Jim interview anyone. And then we'll do Heidi's last because sadly hers is the most boring. And I think we'll do double up on Hi-Fi's because he also does another one with Greg. I can't think of Greg's last name right now, but we'll do that just to build a foundation. So anybody who's new to this and doesn't know who they are before we examine, because this show isn't just going to, of course, just focus on them because there are so many people out there, liberals and other people who are pushing a lot of disinformation out there. So that we'll cover, a lot of them, and we'll look at some old episodes of Rad Pod, some of their lives that they do, things like that. But we'll keep holding their feet to the fire and covering, the disinformation and misinformation that they're putting out there. So thank you to everybody who came, and hope you all have a nice evening tonight. I'll talk to you all later, and thank you for coming again.
I don't need new tires, but stay tuned for the next episode.
We're going to have to be smart. We're going to have to be strategic. We're going to have to be aggressive.
I'm an alpha guy.
I'll flip a table every time you aren't getting by.
Let's go. Just push.
It's all psychological warfare.
I'm not part of QAnon.
We know what they are doing.
For Trump. Da, 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 da.
If shit goes wrong, like I will literally have to leave the country.
Stop that. I'll land my initial plane.
Okay, high five. This isn't the hi-fi show.
Good night. Nighty night.